I did everything right and they indicted me.
Okay. Free speech.
Well, hello.
Hello and welcome to the Young Turks. I'm your host, Yasmin Aliyah Khan, for this first hour. And joining me tonight is not Cenk. He will be on in the second hour, but I have Brett here with me. Brett Ehrlich. How's it going, Brett?
It's going well. I think I'm making the ultimate sacrifice by appearing on this show during game 3 of the NLCS. I'm going to game 4 of the NLCS. I'm very excited about it. We've got Glasnow is going to be pitching, so I need to be in the same room as my wife when that happens so she doesn't see him, because I think he's her type.
Yeah, I mean, that can be a problem. I remember, it's hard for me to talk about baseball because I live in Houston and we have had our fair share of scandals, but we lost a lot of our really good pitchers to New York, and one of our batters went to Toronto, and it's been really sad ever since.
Yeah, and you know what? I just want to tell people holistically, if an Angelino and a Houstonian can share the screen at the same time during the playoffs, we can put aside any difference we have, even if the other person is a dirty, filthy cheater. Go, Yaz.
I don't.
Back to you.
I don't support the cheating. The main cheater is still on our team, and there's a lot of mixed feelings there. We lost some really good people who presumably were not cheaters, but here we are. Here we are. I did go to an Astros versus Dodgers game one time. That was really a lot of fun. So we won, but we probably cheated. Never mind. Anyway, we have a lot of stories to get to in this first hour, a lot of big stories actually. So let's get right into this first one. We're going to talk about Venezuela.
Why did you authorize the CIA to go into Venezuela? And is there more information you can share about these strikes on the alleged?
Well, I can't do that, but I authorized for 2 reasons, really.
Okay, so yesterday, President Donald Trump admitted that the CIA is operating in Venezuela at his direction. And usually, historically speaking, that's not a thing that presidents usually just admit to. So now let's hear from Trump's 2 reasons for sending the CIA on what we can only assume is a regime change mission.
Number one, they have emptied their prisons into the United States of America. They came in through the they came in through the border. They came in because we had an open border policy. And as soon as I heard that, I said, a lot of these countries, they're not the only country, but they're the worst abuser. And they've entered they've allowed thousands and thousands of prisoners, mental institution, people from mental institutions, insane asylums, emptied out into the United States. We're bringing them back. But that's a really bad, and they did it at a level that probably not, many countries have done it, but not like Venezuela. They were down and dirty. And the other thing are drugs. We have a lot of drugs coming in from Venezuela.
Well, according to reporting from the New York Times, thanks to Trump's authorization, the CIA would be able to take covert action against Maduro or his government, either unilaterally or in conjunction with a larger military operation. So speaking of a larger military operation, yesterday, Trump showed his administration's hand once again. Here is the clip. Take a look.
What's the next step in this war on cartels, and are you considering options? Are you considering strikes on land?
Well, I don't want to tell you exactly, but we are certainly looking at land now because we've got the sea very well under control.
He's looking at land now. So the New York Times has reported that the US military is currently drawing up plans to escalate the conflict with Venezuela, including but not limited to striking inside the country on the land. Meanwhile, 10,000 US troops are currently gathered in the region. So the question is, why? Why are they there? There are three main reasons. So the first is that the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, has long wanted to take action against Maduro. He is the architect of the regime change policy that you are seeing play out right now. And he thinks that toppling Maduro will weaken the government of Cuba. So second is that the Trump administration wants to counter the influence of China in the region. Maybe too little too late on that front. And that policy is also manifesting in the tens of billions with a B, dollars that we are sending to bail out Argentina. So there's a lot of different countries involved here, probably even more than we've already mentioned. And the third reason is to help out American corporations. So that is what Special Presidential Envoy Richard Grenell has been working on. For months, he has been trying to negotiate diplomatically with Venezuela. So here's reporting we have from the New York Times. It says Grenell has tried to fashion a deal that would avoid a larger conflict and give American companies access to Venezuelan oil. And oil, it always just seems to come back to the oil, right? It's really hard to get away from oil anywhere you go on the planet, it seems. But the Trump administration recently did cut off diplomatic negotiations with Venezuela. So we'll end by taking a look at the CIA's track record when it comes to regime change operations in and around Latin America. So in 1954, the agency orchestrated a coup that overthrew President Jacobo Arbenz of Guatemala, ushering in decades of instability. The CIA-backed Bay of Pigs invasion of Cuba in 1961 ended in disaster, and the agency repeatedly tried to assassinate Fidel Castro. That same year, the CIA supplied weapons to dissidents who assassinated Rafael Leonidas Trujillo Molina, the authoritarian leader of the Dominican Republic. And the agency has also had its hands in a 1964 coup in Brazil, the death of Che Guevara, and other machinations in Bolivia, a 1973 coup in Chile, and the Contra fight against the leftist Sandinista government of Nicaragua in the 1980s. That is a lot. That is a lot going on between the United States and all these various Latin American countries. Right now, Trump is targeting Venezuela. That is who he has decided to go after. And his main reason for going after Venezuela that he's citing is that he's going after these drug traffickers and these drug cartels, and he doesn't like that the nation of Venezuela is being run by a domestic terrorist. He has decided that Maduro is a terrorist and that they're a cartel running a government right now. And that's what he's trying to get out of power. And the thing is, though, Venezuela is not really like the primary drug trafficker that's getting drugs from their country into the United States. So that alone is a little bit disingenuous. On top of that, it's really, I believe it comes down more so to the oil. There's a ton of oil in Venezuela. And also, I'm gonna just throw this out there. There's a lot of oil right next door in Guyana, which is where my family is actually from. So this is something that I pay a lot of attention to. And Guyana is an interesting country because it is geographically in Latin America, but culturally it's not. We're kind of in a limbo place. That's why my family is from there. So it doesn't usually get looped in there, but we also had a coup in Guyana during the JFK administration. So all of that, there's a lot going on geopolitically here. Brett, what do you make of this? Also, real quick, I do want to mention that Trump is, a lot of what he's doing right now is illegal. He doesn't have any kind of congressional approval to do anything like invade another country with our military. So Brett, what do you think?
Yeah, this is mostly just geopolitics at play. When Trump first off says that this is a drug issue, that I do not buy for a single second as the reason we're doing any of this. He's like, we're being flooded with Venezuelan immigrants. Then why? I don't see why we need to invade Venezuela to change the regime to do that. I'm not gonna be someone who gets pulled into the trap of thinking that one side has to be good and the other side has to be bad in a conflict. So I'm not just gonna say because Trump doesn't like Maduro, Maduro must be good and Trump must be bad. But this thing where we're like, we got the sea all taken care of because we bombed 3 boats off the coast. Everything is going great. Well, the 4-star general in charge of that stuff today announced he's going to be resigning. because of reportedly, according to the New York Times, tensions with Pete Hegseth. They're not getting along. It's not going well. And it's tough with these like Latin American issues. It dates back to like President Monroe. That's how far back it goes. We have this thing Sebastian Gorka hilariously said on like Newsmax the other day. We believe in something called the Monroe Doctrine. Originally, the Monroe Doctrine said, all right, America is in like this side of the world. And so we don't want any other countries. We don't want the Europeans fomenting some kind of horrible discord on this side of the Pacific or this side of the Atlantic. And that started that way. But as Yaz, you just went through, like lately it's been, I just kind of want to prevent communists from taking over on this side of the world, as America's the one who raids all of the resources that exist in South America for our own benefit. And if the country in charge, if the people in charge of any given country aren't going to play ball with us in handing their resources over to American and American allied investment, well, then we're just going to secretly get rid of that group, or we're going to fund the guerrilla organization that is fighting against the leftist governments of those countries or right-wing governments, as long as they don't play ball with us. So that's one thing. And look, the apotheosis of this is the Cuban Missile Crisis, where Russia was buddy-buddy with Cuba and trying to move nuclear missiles into Cuba. Now, depending on whose side you're on or if you're agnostic, there's a lot of allegories or a lot of comparisons to our relationship with Russia, to our relationship with China right now. Like at that time, America had a bunch of military and nuclear bases right by Russia. Russia was like, maybe we'll put some in Cuba, and suddenly we'll be kind of like, 50-50 on this. And America, 13 days of your parents thought they were all going to die from nuclear war, okay? But now you have to add the China thing in there. China has this initiative where it's like one belt, one road. I think it's just taking myself out of what side I'm on. I think it's brilliant, and I think it's like so hilarious because they're just like, we want to have trade. We want to replace America as the people in charge of the world. Partially motivated by the fact that, you know how they got touchy about Cuba with the whole Russia thing? Well, we're a little touchy about America having military bases off our coast as far as the eye can see. And we're like building, and China's like, we're building islands so we can have military bases comparable to those that America solidified in the wake of World War II and beyond. So what they're doing is kind of, as America pulls an old American CIA type thing in Venezuela, China's just sitting there being like, we got a nice little crew of people we're putting together that might be able to take over the world. We got some really good fundamentals in our economy where like our manufacturing is cheap. People have to come here. Maduro just got a cell phone from Xi Jinping that he literally was like, ni hao, shi shi. Like, that's not me being racist. That's him taking out a phone from Huawei, being like, I talked to him on the phone, ni hao, shi shi. Like, he actually acted it out because they essentially have a bat phone made by Huawei, which most likely, just to show how adept China is, and I'd say nefariously in this scenario, like most of those chips are probably based on American technology. So this whole risk board is developing. America's like, we run this side of the Pacific, stay the hell in the Atlantic, and stay the hell away. We can do whatever we want. Obviously trying to get the largest oil reserves in the world and access to it in Venezuela, but the means by which Trump is going about it, just remind the rest of the world, like, this is what America does. Can't you just do what China does and say like, do you need a road? You need an airport? You need some kind of infrastructure? We did stuff like this with the Egyptians and when we were trying to get them to be on our side and away from the Russians, when there was like the whole Israel Sinai Peninsula thing going on. We negotiated all that. That's the kind of statecraft that you really need people who are good at it and knowledgeable about it to execute. And I'm sorry I've talked for a long time, but I'm trying to like put it all together. But the people in charge of our statecraft are not the deftest. It's Donald Trump, and it's Pete Hegseth, and it's Marco Rubio, who I have a lot of really amazing, tight, close Cuban American friends. Like, I'm sure there's part of that that's just like, there is no way I'm letting these godless, evil communists. He's the one that's kind of leading this whole charge to do regime change, because America failed in preventing regime change in Cuba, and there's a long-lasting legacy, probably something that's very near and dear to Marco Rubio's heart.
Yeah, I mean, and you mentioned China obviously quite a bit there, but yeah, the Belt and Road Initiative. Basically, what that is they would go to these countries and say, you started to explain, we'll build you some infrastructure, and in exchange, we'll, just make large investments in your country, and then we have access to that country. And they have done this all around the world, and this has been going on for years, and they haven't been like entirely covert about it. They're just doing what they're doing. They're saying, oh yeah, we're giving them money, we're helping to build roads, and this would benefit us, and it benefits them, and everyone's happy. It's a pretty controversial program, because a lot of those countries that they accept investments from China, they become beholden to China in a lot of ways. So it's not always a good deal for these countries, but a lot of times, and I've said this before, whenever you consider that there are several major big players on the world stage, so let's say you have the United States, Russia, and China. Maybe you can throw India in there. A lot of these other smaller countries will kind of align themselves with the different countries. And here in the United States, I don't know if people really like grasp this, but for those smaller countries, they don't care which of these giant empires they align themselves with, because like all the empires are terrible. All of them have the good with the bad, but they're really just saying, I'll align myself with whoever helps me out the most, right? So the United States, especially American citizens, they have this idea that we align ourselves with these countries, and the countries that align themselves with us are countries that believe in democracy, and they believe in what we're selling, and they want to be more like us, and blah, 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 blah. There's all this ideology behind it. But then, like what we're seeing with Argentina right now, they're just selling their soybeans to China instead of to us, because it doesn't matter. They just need a buyer, And all of these countries, including the United States, are just as bad on the world stage. So there's a lot going on. And you mentioned the risk board. It is very, very complicated, and everything is intertwined. And then whenever you consider oil and gas, and that becomes like a whole other level of geopolitics that just like is underlying the entire thing. So. With that, we're gonna take our first break. We'll be right back with more. Hey everybody, welcome to our first social break. We have some comments that we're gonna get to. Let's see what's going on over here. Over at tyt.com, next TYT reporter says, I'm glad Yad said something. I would have thought that was Cenk the whole first hour. Yes, I'm sure many of you could have seen for yourselves that I have Brett with me today instead of Cenk. So we're all very excited. I'm a damn lib. Okay, it says, so this one crazed person is allowed to declare war on whoever he decides. Where the F is Congress? That is a great question. Congress is not currently even in session. So I guess Trump can just do whatever he wants to do. Also, he completely controls the Department of Defense. So that's what they're up to. He's just got 10,000 US military just sitting outside in like a flotilla off the coast of Venezuela. And also something we didn't mention, they're targeting all these boats, saying that they're probably drug trafficking into the United States or killing people. And there's no confirmation that these are drug boats at all. And there is some reporting that has come out that says no, like these are just fishermen. And maybe that's true, maybe it's not, but either way, they're not really searching them before, doing war against people. Jack Callahan said this has nothing to do with drugs. Another failed coup attempt, destabilizing countries, sending gobs of money that could be used domestically. It's an old playbook that just won't die. And yeah, it is. It's a little sad. It's very frustrating. It's unoriginal. Honestly, like just do something. Like just be better. I'm bored. I'm bored. Can we do something? Let's see. Wang Jun said that phone is definitely being tapped. Is that was Brett's reference to Maduro's phone with China? And I lives in America said we should send ICE to fight the war in Venezuela. Yeah, I mean that might be like a better use. Just get him out of here. Just get him out of here. So that would be nice. It's just Vegas says, just gonna say Brett is looking hot today. Yaz is doing all right too. It's the hair, Brett.
I can't tell which direction it's gonna go. And today,
I told you, the hair is great today.
I just appreciate it. I don't know. Yaz was saying how someone told her she has the best hair in independent media, boys.
Yeah, on the damage report. Somebody said that in the comments. And John was so jealous. So that was also fun for me.
Listen, left to his own devices, John would have the worst hair where he's like, every year he's like, I'm just gonna grow it out the longest anyone has despite my face shape. And we all have to say, John, no. As a balding, I need you to embrace your hair, keep it short, keep it tight, keep it cute, buddy.
It's a look. Let him experiment. I like when he experiments too. All right, let's see. Oh, a lot of love for Yaz and Brett. Thank you very much. Chuck Dangler says, Yaz and Brett, Yaz, please. I love that and also hate it. Jenny Kelly says, Yaz and Brett tonight, two of my favorites. Thank you very much. LL Taco Dragon says, double dose of Yaz. Yeah, I've been busy today. I've had a long day. So I'm just gonna get like a sandwich and go to bed early tonight. All right, we will be right back. Welcome back to the show. I'm Yasmin Khan and I'm here with Brett Ehrlich. We have a lot more stories to get to, so let's get right into this next one.
Which specific Republicans leaders do you believe you can work with to pass a CO and reopen the government?
Look, that's a great question, Logan. And let me tell you, I can, mention a number of them.
My God. Last night, Senator Bernie Sanders and Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez held a town hall on CNN, and you're about to watch Sanders give an answer that would have been inconceivable just a few months ago, so let's watch.
In American society, we believe in democracy. You're a conservative Republican, we disagree, so what? It's called America. We have different points of view. I gotta tell you though, if I may, one of the things that has concerned me very, very much and is that we are seeing the Republican Party doing less of representing their districts and their states than just swearing allegiance to the President of the United States. Now, I never thought that I would say this, but you have somebody like Marjorie Taylor Greene saying, you know what? I was elected by my constituents. That's who I am beholden to, not the President of the United States. So there are good Republicans out there, and if Trump would leave them alone for 5 minutes and not threaten them with a primary, if they stood up and did the right thing, I think we can make progress.
So just to clarify, he is identifying Marjorie Taylor Greene as one of the good Republicans. We'll discuss that obviously more later. But Caitlin Collins then asked AOC if she would consider working with Marjorie Taylor Greene. And a few months ago, AOC seemed very opposed to that whole idea. But over the summer, she did not sign on to Marjorie Taylor Greene's amendment to cut $500 million in missile defense funding for Israel. In a post explaining her reasoning, AOC wrote, if you believe neo-Nazis are welcome and operating in good faith, you can have them. But now AOC sounds a little bit different. Let's watch.
You mentioned Marjorie Taylor Greene. She's your colleague over in the House. The way she frames this is she says Democrats created this mess, but Republicans don't have any solutions to fix the healthcare issue either. Is she someone that you could see yourself working with?
On what?
On the healthcare.
I mean, listen, I think people can talk a good game. But until they actually support policy that helps people, I'm not particularly interested. But if she actually wants to support legislation and expanding healthcare, I've worked with plenty of Republicans as well on healthcare. But it's not just about talking the talk; we got to walk the walk.
And you would need to see her actually support something that you're behind in terms of legislation on healthcare.
Yeah.
So that's fair. So how does Marjorie Taylor Greene feel about the idea of partnering with a Democrat, let alone a progressive Democrat? Well, today, Greene wrote a post that seemed to be directed at any Democrat who has found themselves agreeing with her lately, or maybe even wanting to work with her. She wrote, "No, I do not support the ACA/Obamacare. It has made health insurance totally unaffordable and overregulated doctors. And no, I do not support healthcare for all. We are $37 trillion in debt, and I will never support the government controlling your healthcare. Remember COVID lockdowns and masks and vaccine mandates, government taking away access to life-saving ivermectin, not doing anything like that ever again." There she is, good old Marjorie Taylor Greene. "No, I do not support illegal immigration or illegal labor. I want secure borders like what we have now, and I want the drug and human trafficking billion-dollar cartel industry out of America. No, I am not pro-abortion. I love babies, all of them. I think they are a gift from God. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Have a nice day." Why do they always have to end like that? I hate it. I don't get it. I don't know why Trump just says it all the time now. Like that's like his new thing that he decided to just bring in to the second presidency term for him. So that is interesting. John and I did talk about this a little bit on the damage report earlier. And what I was saying is, basically the United States is kind of at a pivot point, or we're kind of teetering on the edge of something. And it seems as though Donald Trump is not going to be with us for much longer. I don't know what that means. I don't know how that's going to happen. I don't know what much longer means. I obviously don't know any more than anybody else on this front. But the Republican Party does seem to have to figure out very quickly who they are and what they are without Donald Trump at the helm. Donald Trump has been at the head of the Republican Party now for 10 years, and not just been at the head of it. He has completely reshaped the Republican Party. The Republican Party of today is very, very different from the Republican Party of 10 years ago. Not that I was a huge fan of it back then, but today it is unrecognizable. And a lot of our Congress people who are sitting in either the House or the Senate, they have completely aligned themselves with Donald Trump, and they identify as MAGA Republicans. And I would say, Marjorie Taylor Greene has been one of the forefront figures of that movement for a long time. It's only been recently, like very, very recently, that she has started to speak out against some of the things that Trump is doing and the way he's doing things. So now, there is some distrust from people on the left because it's like, okay, well, she's saying some things that are starting to make sense. Am I tripping? Like, is she genuine? Does she mean what she's saying? Does she believe what she's saying? And is this indicative of a pattern going forward? And Marjorie has come out and said definitively, no, I'm still who I've always been. But she is going to have to figure out who she is going forward, because without Donald Trump, does Marjorie Taylor Greene even have much of a career anymore as a congressperson? What are your thoughts there, Brett?
So good politics, it's being played well when the intentions of your adversary or the signaling of the adversary doesn't matter, where you don't have to trust them or not trust them. Like if you can get them to vote for your bill, you don't need to trust them on literally anything else. And the thing about healthcare in this situation, you have to ask yourself, and this is kind of an experiment that TYT's kind of led on, which is let's see what we can do to maybe get some of these people to join our side, and to do that is to say, all right, what are things that you like, that you really are passionate about? Abortion and healthcare and the cost of living. Our job is to be like, what do I have to put in this hand so you forget about that hand? That's politics. The Republican Party generally has had a trajectory where they know that they lose on the social safety net. People are supportive of that. They know that they lose holistically on the concept of abortion, but they do want to get a bunch of people together into a tent. So they go, oh, people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, people who represent working class poor people, theoretically. I don't really know that much about her part of Georgia, but like the represent working class people. The Republicans are like, can I get these folks to be more passionate about abortion than they are about their own pocketbooks? And that's the fight we're in right now. That's the fight. And in the meantime, politically speaking, just pointing out the rift in the Republican Party is important, is necessary to say, listen, you guys are in chaos right now. She's talking trash about the Speaker of the House, saying that he basically hates women. All right, these guys are still probably gonna vote on a national level about abortion, but this right now, the next vote is a healthcare vote. It's an ongoing funding of the government for what? Not to put ACA or Obamacare in there. She's like, I don't support the ACA or Obamacare. I don't support healthcare for all. Well, we're not asking her to support those things. We need politically to make her discourse in the public sphere about, do you want to take healthcare away from a bunch of poor people in your constituency, or do you want to make it so that they can afford to live and go to the doctor? Because it seems like right now the Democrats have done a good job of saying this government shutdown is about the Republicans wanting to take healthcare away from millions and millions and millions of people, while they're throwing billions of dollars at like Sideburns boy down in Argentina so he could throw a concert. Yeah. Like, meanwhile, and I have a video, Yaz and I do Rebel HQ. Everybody subscribe at youtube.com/Rebel HQ. Give us a follow on Facebook. Like, I have a video coming out this week about all of the different fronts she has opened up in the fight against Trump. And we go through them one by one and see what the fallout is, as Trump seems to be at least losing his bond with Marjorie Taylor Greene, and doing so as she says this stuff on the platform of people he's also lost contact with. Tim Dillon, those folks that are not afraid to call him out, exposing that like these tigers are going tiger. They're comedians. Marjorie Taylor Greene, she's doing kind of a similar thing here, and it needs to be pointed out for a whole bunch of reasons. One, the most important of which is making sure people get health care and the government can get funded, and the tactical one being let's cause some chaos in the Republican Party.
Yeah, and absolutely. And like, let's not get too ahead of ourselves with anything. Like, Marjorie Taylor Greene isn't just gonna like hop on over to like become a progressive Democrat and like have any kind of alliance or even just like see things from our perspective anytime soon. She's still very much who she is. But it is interesting to see these MAGA Republicans finally starting to just say things in opposition to Donald Trump, because we have not seen that in a very, very long time, especially not from the likes of somebody like Marjorie Taylor Greene. There was a strong coalition within the Republican Party that was just loyal to Donald Trump to a fault. And Bernie, he actually alluded to this in that clip that we showed you, but there have been Republicans in the past who have spoken out against Donald Trump, and they were primaried and they lost their primaries, right? I think the most obvious example that I can think of right now is Liz Cheney. She lost her seat in Congress. So that's kind of the risk that these people are taking. And of course, the midterms are coming up. So that is going to temper the way that these politicians are speaking right now. So
I do want to get one last thing in there, addressing what AOC said about being able to work with Marjorie Taylor Greene. So Marjorie Taylor Greene's from Georgia. A lot of my political science studies and emphasis was on realignment politics in the South. And there were a lot of people like Marjorie Taylor Greene in the Democratic Party until 2004. 2004. They had Democratic governors in Georgia till 2004. Now, a lot of them left for the reasons you probably think they left, which is the governor decided to not eliminate, but shrink the size of the Confederate flag on the Georgia state flag, and it was a whole big thing. But there is a history of people figuring out a way to work with this stuff and pull these terrible, horrible, no good, very bad people on some issues back into the Democratic Party and vote along with their economic interests rather than their like evangelical ones.
Yeah, and that's a good point, because I wonder if people remember what politics was like in 2004, which is like, what, 20 years ago. I was in high school back then. And I live in Texas, is a deep red state, but it wasn't in 2004. It was a red state, but just barely. Before that, we had a Democratic governor here. And a lot of what we've been seeing with these like deeply entrenched states and these deeply entrenched politics, a lot of that is a manifestation of the past couple of decades, and specifically the last decade. These very, very partisan politics. This is all, somewhat new, right? There was always disagreement. There was always people on two sides of things. People always had different opinions. But this type of what we're seeing, this partisanship in this country, I'm over it. Like, I'm done with whatever this is. I'm sorry if I'm contributing to it, but it's a lot. So anyway, Kate, we're gonna do C. Okay,
let's do it.
All right, we're gonna move on to our next story.
Earlier this year, you swore in 2 Republican members during the pro forma session. So why not swear in Adelita Grijalva, who was elected 2 weeks ago during the pro forma session? Does it have to do with her 218th signature on the discharge petition, the Epstein discharge?
No, it has nothing to do with that at all. We will swear her in when everybody gets back. It's a ceremonial duty. Look, we'll schedule it, I guess, as soon as she wants. It has nothing to do with it.
Okay, that was said on day 7 of the government shutdown, and we are now on day 16, and Representative-elect Adelita Grijalva is still just that, representative-elect, because she has still not been sworn in. Adelita Grijalva, a Democrat from Arizona, won a special election on September 23rd to represent Arizona's 17th district after her father, Representative Raul Grijalva, died in March. So that was almost a month ago that she was elected. And she won also in a landslide, 69% to 29%. But regardless of who won the election signaled something much greater for the Republican Representative Thomas Massie and his petition to force a vote to release the Epstein files. So here's what Massie had to say. He said, both of the candidates on the ballot promised to sign my discharge petition, and one of them won, obviously. And so now we're going to have 218 signatures, and we're going to force a vote on releasing those files. Meanwhile, according to a House leadership aide, it's customary practice to swear in new members while Congress is in session, but it's not mandatory. They don't have to wait for anything. Johnson swore in Republican Representative Jimmy Patronis and Randy Fine during a pro forma session earlier this year. So it's pretty clear why Grijalva has not yet been sworn in. But Mike Johnson is going to continue to just deflect and make excuses, and it's just what he loves to do. Let's watch.
Let's just be really clear. If I were a Republican, I would have already been sworn in. Right. And that is not acceptable. They're afraid of me signing and being the 218th signer to the Epstein.
So she says that you're afraid of her being the 218th signer to the Epstein petition to release the files, that if she were a Republican, you would have sworn her in. What do you say?
I say bless her heart. She's a representative-elect. She doesn't know how it works around here. We're going to give her the oath of office as soon as we get back to regular session, as soon as Chuck Schumer and the Democrats vote to reopen the government. We've got a lot to do here. They're the ones holding it up. What Rep. Grijalva doesn't understand is that there's a certain tradition and process that we engage in here to administer the oath. My colleague, Representative Julia Letlow from Louisiana, was elected in a special election under very similar circumstances, and Nancy Pelosi was Speaker at the time. She took 25 days to administer the oath to Julia Letlow. Nobody threw a fit. Nobody, engaged in a publicity stunt, because Nancy Pelosi was doing that on the legislative calendar. I'm doing exactly the same thing.
Oh my God. As a fake Southerner, that, bless her heart, has me incensed. So patronizing. And Nancy Pelosi wasn't being faced with a petition with enough votes to force the release of the Epstein files. He still didn't even talk about that. So Grijalva also could have been sworn in before the shutdown, by the way, but that's just not what happened. Johnson decided against that for some unknown reason. There is simply no logical reason why Grijalva has not yet been sworn in. And because she hasn't been sworn in yet, she's not able to hire staff or go anywhere in the Capitol without an escort. She did finally get the keys to her office, but there are no working phone lines, no internet, no computers. And perhaps most importantly, her district is currently in limbo because she cannot act as a representative or perform any kind of constituent services. The people of her district currently have no representation in the House. So now Arizona AG Chris Mays is weighing the possibility of maybe taking legal action to get all of this resolved finally.
Yeah, I mean, I really think that we are going to have no other choice, Laura, except to take Speaker Johnson to court. If he refuses to respond to us, if he doesn't quickly swear in Adelita Grijalva, again, depriving her of the ability to help her constituents. We've had some flooding out here in Arizona. She has no way to help those people in southern Arizona who have been impacted by that flooding. So many other things that she can and should be doing as an elected member of Congress. And so if I have to, I'll take him to court. Again, there's no legitimate reason for him to refuse to swear her in right now.
So she wrote in a letter to Johnson on Tuesday saying, "You and your staff have provided ever-shifting, unsatisfactory, and sometimes absurd stories as to why Ms. Grijalva has not been sworn in. We thus demand that Ms. Grijalva be immediately sworn into office and admitted to her rightful seat. We ask that within 2 days of the date of this letter, you provide this office with your assurance of when and where that will take place, which must be immediate and prior to the date the House comes back into regular session. Should you fail to provide such assurance, we will be forced to seek judicial relief to protect Arizona and the residents of its 7th congressional district." Brett, a lot of excuses, and he never addressed the thing that everyone wants him to address, which is, are you doing this because you don't want to release the Epstein files? He's making all these excuses like, oh, we usually do it this way. I mean, if she wants to be sworn in, I'll just swear her in. I'll just get it scheduled, no big deal. And then no follow up on that. He's saying, oh, bless her heart, she doesn't know how this works. Just because she hasn't been in Congress before doesn't mean you can't know how things work, right? And I'm sure she's also being mentored by other Congress people on the Democrat side who are telling her how things work if she doesn't already know for herself. So this is the whole pandering to Donald Trump with this and protecting whoever is in the Epstein files. It's very, very tired. And then using the government shutdown as an excuse for this is also very insincere, let's say. I think that's the nicest way I can put it. Because she was elected prior to the government shutdown. And then he's also trying to blame the Democrats for their own Democrat not being sworn in as of yet. Brett, how much longer can he do this? Until he runs out of excuses? He can't just keep saying the same things over and over again.
He can do, this is his job, right? His job is to be the person who creates favorable votes for his side. So he thinks if something gets passed, it's a law for him, or it's a loss for him, or if something even makes it to create an opportunity where his side can have an unfavorable outcome, he's not doing his job. So this is his job. He's not doing his job. But what does that mean? That means this is absolutely so that we can't see the Epstein files. That's it. What is he saying? He's saying I want to be more like Nancy Pelosi is his argument. I'm being just like Nancy Pelosi, and we Republicans know that's awesome. It doesn't make any sense. And this is so horrible for him. His hair might be absolutely perfect every second of the day, put in place obviously by the power of whatever demon he sold his soul to. He reminds me of the guy from True Blood who goes on there and seems to be a good church-going guy, but as soon as the camera turns off, he turns into a blood-sucking, evil, depraved vampire.
I always saw him as a Keebler elf.
No, God, see, that's the thing is my cynicism about like the faux pious completely, I can't get past that and into delicious Nabisco treats.
I mean, I like yours better. So.
I love EL fudge. And stripe cookies, my God. But like, let's look at why he is keeping the government shut down. The Republicans have all the power. Everybody's heard that. They got the presidency, the Supreme Court, the House, the Senate. They have all the power. Mm-hmm. They could very easily decide to work with Democrats and give them concessions. The problem is the concession the Democrats want keeps people with health coverage. The Republicans are keeping up two things right now, right? They're preventing, or the Republicans want to take people off healthcare. They want to take people off life support. They want to put people in a position. This is explicitly what this vote's about and why the government shut down. They want to make it so people have to choose between going bankrupt or dying or both. That's what this man of God, this guy who loves Jesus so much, he tells his kid when he looks at porn or something, I don't remember. And then the second thing, 80% of Americans, or according to a poll I read recently, numbers may have changed, want to see the Epstein files. Donald Trump ran on, I'm gonna get rid of the deep state and the child checkers, I'm gonna use the Epstein files. The only reason we don't see the Epstein files has got an even more Zach Morris hair wave than I do. And he's doing it on behalf of Donald Trump. Prove me wrong if I'm wrong. This guy is in the Epstein files. They know it. I'm just repeating what people who voted for Trump have been saying for a very long time. This is why the Republicans have the power to a non-zero extent. People want to see the Epstein files. This guy's keeping them away from us, and he can keep doing it until there's too much pressure. But the more he does it, the better it is for us, and the worse it is for pretty much his people.
Yeah, I'm kind of at this point just not even expecting to get those files from our government. I think that they will find their way out to the public through other means. I don't know what those means are, but I know that there can't be just like one copy of these files that our government has. So that's my not so conspiratorial conspiracy theory. So with that, we're gonna take our next break. We'll be right back. Welcome back to our break. It's our second break, and we have a lot of comments here actually. So that's exciting. Let's see. Nave, man, you guys always have these crazy handles, and I feel like I can't read them. Navi Nix, I don't know, says thanks to Brett for taking Bernie to your barber. So yeah, you're in good company, Brett, tonight. Don't shoot, I'm the goalkeeper, says in other news, MTG is still insane. Shocker there. I want to say that she's a little bit more tempered than she was before, but she had to throw in her ivermectin little bit in her tweet. Pessimistic Progressive says, I'm going to defend AOC here. She ultimately did vote no on the entire bill, but yes, it would have been nice for her to vote on both. Yeah, it's always tricky whenever you look at a congressperson's voting record because a lot of these bills, there's a lot of reasons to vote one way or the other, but it is their responsibility, I think, to explain their votes to the public, and then the public can do what they want with those explanations. Mary Ellen Van Buren says, take the win. She's in favor of funding the subsidies. She is against AIPAC and funding Israel. That's true, yeah. I mean, there are probably worse people in government right now on the Republican side, worse than MTG. Let's see. Driver Dragon says, being an honest person in Washington is like a figure skater drafted by the NFL. Just how effective do you think they can be? I would love to think that they can be effective, but that's something that keeps coming up actually with Zohran Mamdani. It's like, even if he does win, how effective will he actually be allowed to be without all of these vultures kind of coming at him from every angle? I remember here in Texas, when we had Beto O'Rourke running for senator, and he was very, very, very close to winning. And there was a question of, even if he did win, how effective would he have been able to be? Also, maybe as our governor. Sexy Speed Racer said, Johnson, you are a flat out naked liar. Yeah, he is, and he does it with like his little Keebler elf face, which is very off-putting. It's very confusing, and it doesn't mean anything. Miss DOL04 says, I've been taking a TYT break for my furloughed sanity. Oh, yeah, I get it. I'm sorry. Yeah, but happy to come back for Yaz and Brett. Oh, thank you. Happy 50+ million with y'all. Thank you very, very much. And I'm very sorry that we don't have better news to report for you tonight. Let's see. Canadian Skull Dragon says, oh, hey, 5-day watch streak. Very nice. That is very, very nice. Thank you very much. Dana Albrecht says, I think Brett is stoned and I'm here for it. Cannot confirm or deny.
Dude, not stoned, worked out today, guys.
Oh, whoa.
That's my body is not how it should be vibe I'm putting out.
Good. Well, let's just keep that going. Welcome back to the Young Turks. I am Yasmin here with Brett. Brett is bringing in some energy to the final couple of stories that we have. I don't know what kind of energy it is, but it is an energy. So we're gonna
I'll take it. That's the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me.
It's an energy, yeah. All right, so we have a couple more stories for you guys, and then we'll get you guys onto the second hour with Cenk and Michael. But for now, an American flag that was defaced to feature a swastika was spotted in a Republican congressman's office during an online meeting. Representative Dave Taylor, seen there, who is very much in alignment with Donald Trump, was not in his office at the time of this meeting. Instead, Angelo Elia was on the call. So blogger DJ Burns posted this to X. There's a picture and you can see the flag there, and it's defaced to look like a swastika is in the middle of it. And it says, a friend in DC had a Zoom call with Congressman Dave Taylor's office today. Taylor's legislative correspondent, Angelo Elia, had what can only be described as an American swastika flag prominently displayed in his background. So not only was the swastika flag in the representative's office, but it was well within the frame of the video call. It's like if I just put a very questionable flag just right here on this wall, it's like where the violin is maybe. So Taylor has responded to the image denying that it is his flag at all, and he is ordering an investigation into how it even got into his office. He said, I'm aware of an image that appears to depict a vile and deeply inappropriate symbol near an employee in my office, Taylor said in a statement but he released on his website. The content of that image does not reflect the values or standards of this office, my staff, or myself, and I condemn it in the strongest terms. No further comment will be provided until it has been completed. And it has been reported that investigations are underway right now. Also, it's not clear that the staffer who was on camera at the time spotted the flag or had anything to do with it or knew it was there or whatever. Despite working for a MAGA Republican congressman, he is actually a registered Democrat. And I'm not gonna knock his hustle. Jobs are really, really hard to come by these days. And whenever you take a job like that on the Hill, you don't always get to work with your preferred congressperson. But at this point, we don't have a whole lot more information on the flag or how it got into that congressman's office, but also why no one noticed it was there prior to it being featured prominently on a video call. And or why nobody brought it up to that congressman. And of course, Brett, this all comes on the heels of that very inflammatory Republican youth group chat that was leaked recently. So what do you do with this story?
I'm not saying that all Trump supporters are Nazis. I'm saying they're all Nazis or Trump supporters. There's that. I love in the wake of this stuff, like people's initial reaction. That's the most interesting part because I don't know who put it up there or what. And my initial reaction was like, yeah, it makes sense. And I think a lot of people's initial reaction was like, ugh, and I think a lot of Republicans' initial reaction was like, God, this is not a good look for us, rather than that's fake. Like if that showed up in the background of a photo of Bernie Sanders or AOC, I'd be like, that's probably fake. But if you're telling me like it ended up behind someone in a Republican Party, just like that thing that pops into your mind before you have a chance to run it through your own like partisan filter is like, that seems par for their course. Like, I'm not saying that Pete Hegseth has white supremacist tattoos. I'm just saying that most people with the same tattoos as Pete Hegseth are white supremacists. Mm-hmm. And if they do find out that this dude is responsible for it, hung it in his office, that is desecration of the American flag. And if Trump's executive orders are to be believed, this congressperson, if convicted, should be pursued to the fullest extent of the law, as Donald Trump put in his executive order about flag burning. And he should serve, quote, 1 year in jail, no early exits, no nothing, vigorously prosecute. Those are my thoughts.
Quoting the Monopoly man with go straight to jail, do not pass go, do not collect $200. Like,
it's so good.
And it's not real. Every time he says something, it's not real. But yeah, like that's a great point about, the initial reaction to this particular flag being spotted in a MAGA Republican's office. You're just like, yeah, probably, maybe, and I actually was surprised when he came out saying that's not my flag. And I do feel for him. If it's not his flag, that's not a great look. That's not what anybody wants. It's also very overtly racist, like even for what we've been seeing coming out of the Republicans lately, it is that is bold. And the Republicans though, I feel like they deface the flag all the time. They just get away with it. Like there's so many MAGA flags that are flying around certain neighborhoods. Even the Blue Lives Matter flag is just a defaced American flag. So where do we draw the line? At what point is it a defaced American flag? And at what point is it just a different flag altogether? I don't know. But there were a couple of comments that I wanted to read real quickly before we go to our final story. This is from YTP Renewed. Give us $2 in the super chats. Thank you very much. Said the CIA should have been abolished for Bay of Pigs alone. Yeah, that's a great point. And it's interesting because I don't think people even understand that that's a possibility of a thing that can happen. And then Thomas Daniel gave us $9.99. Thank you very much. And says Marjorie is working against the Republicans and AIPAC because she got shot by a Jewish space laser, and you can't convince me otherwise. And you know what, Thomas, I would never even attempt to convince you otherwise. So with that, on that note, we have one final story for you, and I'm just gonna let you watch this clip.
Female leadership leads to violence, and you see it. And it was Governor Wallace's wife who opened the windows to
smell the burning tires.
Drink in, the redolent odor of riot.
Ooh, Tucker Carlson and Alex Jones sat down for a chat recently. The video was titled "Alex Jones Warns of the Globalist Death Cult Fueling the Next Civil War and Rise of the Antichrist." So you can imagine how that conversation went. Totally normal stuff to be talking about, totally normal thing to title a video, but it went on for over 2 hours and for about 2.5 hours. And at about 2 hours in, the topic turned to women. So let's hear more from Tucker on women leaders being more violent than men.
It's really, the Bolsheviks' wives were more bloodthirsty than they were. I don't know exactly what that is. I think weak male leadership incites something in women that's really dark. That's not their fault, that's men's fault. Men's job is to lead. You can't shirk that duty because it's not created by man, it's pre-existent.
Well, they found in studies in total war, like women commit way more war crimes than men.
You know, you were turned over to the squaws to be tortured to death over the period of 3 weeks. You know, they slow roast you.
You know us women, we love a good roast. So Tucker goes on to say that since women get into less physical violence, like they don't get into as many fistfights growing up, and people who haven't been in fistfights should not be commanding any kind of army. I'm not really sure how we got there. I mean, I kind of see how we got there, but not really. Anyway, so let's go back to Alex Jones's point about women committing more war crimes than men. What is he talking about? Where did he get that from? Here is what we found. So authors of the book Why Leaders Fight analyzed every world leader from 1875 to 2004 and statistically examined gender differences in military aggression. They found that 36% of the female leaders initiated at least one militarized dispute, while only 30% of male leaders did the same. The authors say this does not mean that women are generally more aggressive. However, men were responsible for 694 acts of aggression and 86 wars, while women were responsible for just 13 acts of aggression. So that's 694 compared to 13, and only one war. That's 86 compared to one, and that was Indira Gandhi. The authors conclude that women who lead nations likely have the same risk propensity as their male counterparts. And let's be fair, we do have to take into consideration that there have been a lot more male leaders throughout history than there have been women. So I don't really know how that ratio plays out, but there were a few recent examples of women leaders displaying aggressive behavior or more militaristic behavior. So there was Margaret Thatcher, she the iron, what do they call her? The Iron Woman, the Iron Lady, the Iron Woman, yeah. When she attacked Argentina, whenever Argentina was invading the Falklands, so Margaret Thatcher decided to attack Argentina against the advice she was getting from her advisors, and she ordered the sinking of an Argentine ship, which killed over 300 sailors. Then there was Park Geun-hye of South Korea, who just threatened decisive military action against North Korea if they even thought about trying anything with her. And Hillary Clinton, in her capacity as the Secretary of State, she was pursuing diplomacy against Libya, but then she decided to recommend military action against Libya during the Obama administration, even in opposition to her male colleagues. Brett, I want to get your thoughts on this, but I will say that was a crazy interview because, I don't consume a whole lot of Alex Jones, but whenever I'm forced to bring our audience, clips like these and stories like this one, it's baffling. And it was so funny because he would just say something so insane and it would leave your head spinning. And then Tucker Carlson's on the other end and he just moves past it. Like Alex Jones just very casually brought up something about bald men in airports stealing dresses. I don't even know what he was talking about. And then Tucker just moved on past that comment. So what are your thoughts? Are women more aggressive, Brett? And if so, why could that possibly be?
The answer is periods. Obviously, men don't have periods. So no male has ever initiated a war. It's science. Ever. There's never been a man who's done war or been aggressive at all. It comes down to the female reproductive system, the moon, and I think the movie Eat, Pray, Love, which I heard they made a book out of. All right, so those were jokes. That was very nice of the producer. Did you do that? Whoever produced this story, yes, very nice of you to list a few examples of women starting wars. That is journalisming.
You're welcome.
That said, come on. Like in these scenarios, their job, what they're good at is to just do that. Just the 1,000-hand slap from Street Fighter of insane statements, so that their audience will just be like, yep, don't like women. This tastes like the other food from you I ate out of your butthole, of me being like, I also don't like women. No, it's their fault I don't get laid.
No. Actually, Brett, I'll stop you right there, because they actually did specify that they both love women before launching into that segment. And Tucker Carlson even said he likes women more than he likes men.
Right,
that was nice of him.
Either they believe it or they don't, right? That's the question. So what do we do as media readers in an era of horrible media literacy being, taken apart and defunded by these schmucks who take millions? I don't know about them specifically, but folks that take millions and millions and millions of unfettered dollars to forward right-wing talking points. They either believe it or they don't. My contention is that, so I don't know, but I'm pretty sure that Tucker and Alex, neither of them believes this. They just know it gets them views. And that's me giving them the benefit of the doubt. That's the nicest way I can characterize this. It's insane, because at the same time they're saying women are more fragile, and later they're like, women need to be protected. That's why we have armies. And they're saying, why are we sending women into battle at all? It's like, bro, you just said that they're superior, more aggressive people to men. Shouldn't they be at war then? Shouldn't they be the ones we just be like, oh my God, 1 week every year, if we have an all-female force because of evil brain blood of the hormones of the moon, they just sick them into period force. Go do it. The 7 days war, it's a thing, but this time it's with periods that are all synced up. I don't know much about women, but I am horrible.
It's the witches of TikTok.
If they do believe it, that's worse, right?
Mm-hmm.
If they really do believe that this is true, this thing that very obviously they're like, someone just give me two numbers, one bigger than the other, and I will warp that into a study that women create more, like do more war crimes. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make sense. It's pathetic. And this is the stuff that every time Tucker Carlson, it's like I was saying with Marjorie Taylor Greene, what can I get him to agree with me on that then turns into tangible wins for my side? But I always have to remember, these guys suck, dude. They suck. It's like with everything, like with jokes, with talking about trans people in sports, or trans people in general, with talking about war, women, anything. I could talk to someone if they pass a test. It's the a-hole test. If you're not trying to be an a-hole and you sound like one, but you're not trying to be one, I can work with that because your intentions are not bad. But if you're trying to be an a-hole, which is exactly what they're doing right now, I have to call you out for it. And I'm never gonna get that far with you unless I reveal the internal fallacies in your logic as best as I can. I throw it into a montage that I can play whenever I need it because people need to be reminded. And that's it. But there's a lot of guys that that are gonna get suckered into this because they're being given permission. And this is the last thing I'll say on it. All these guys talk about how men need good male figures in their life. Okay, they don't want bad male fatherly figures in their life. And Tucker Carlson and Alex Jones are the furthest from it. Because he said, oh, I love women, but I am going to spend an insane amount of time saying insane things about how women do more war crimes. To what end? Is this obvious warping of a study that then told you not to make that conclusion? To what end is that? And it's to ruin the lives of young men and young women at the same time, so that these young men can get a rush that makes it less likely they'll ever get laid, by the way. And it makes women's life worse because they're surrounded by men you made like this. And also on the Antichrist thing, last thing, there's a great thing about the Antichrist that my Catholic former boss put up there. She still don't believe Trump's the Antichrist. Then they list all the things about the Antichrist. He's the lawless one, he's the boaster, he's the arrogant one, he's the pathological liar, he's the builder of towers. He routinely breaks treaties, he demands worship constantly. He's deceitful and attempts to lure the church into following him. Is he a man of sin? Did he brag to be the chosen one? Does he show no compassion and empathy? I'm almost done. Is he the son of perdition? Is he the destroyer? Does he constantly try to make himself look great? These are all things the Bible says about the Antichrist, and each one of them, according to this graphic, is exactly how you would describe Donald Trump.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, it's just so stupid. Like, I hate that now, like, war is our fault too now. Like, are we full of rage? Yes, I can't imagine why we are full of rage. We were just told not to take Tylenol, which is one of the only painkillers that pregnant women are allowed to take. And he's like, just deal with it, just like have more pain. And like, I wonder if people who don't menstruate, right? Like if they understand how painful it can be. And we're just like walking through life doing that. Also, before we go, Brett, I love your montaging. I love that you create montage. It's like your version of scrapbooking, and I think it's very wholesome in a very Brett specific way. So
thank you.
Anyway, we have to go. We got a break. We're gonna give you the second hour. You have Michael and Cenk coming up. Brett, did you have fun?
I had a great time with you, Yaz. This was fantastic. Thank you.
Great, you are welcome. And I will see everybody next time. Bye.
The most popular online news show.
Favorite news platform by far. Oh, it's not even close.
Been on YouTube for 20 years. The Young Turks.
The Young Turks.
TYT probably needs no introduction.
A true lefty, Cenk Uygur.
Cenk Uygur.
Cenk, so great to talk to you.
Great to talk to you, David.
Fan of your work for a long time, man.
Anna Kasparian is one of the most followed and influential progressive women online.
I love Anna.
Your presence has been essential for me to really grow.
Do all of you know the Young Turks? This is why what Young Turks are doing is so important.
I've watched you for many years. You are insightful. I thank you for that.
I was going to introduce myself, but it sounds like you guys might know it.
Ring the bell on YouTube today. You know what it does? It actually rings the bell at my house. It's super annoying, but if you do it, it just keeps on ringing. Oh, plus you can find out when the show is live and whenever we have new clips. Ring the bell. Oh no, not again.
How would I look walking a dog on the White House lawn? Would that be?
You know how much it costs you to start an account on TYT.com? Nothing. It's free. So you just go and register in about 2.5 seconds. Then you can chat with us during the show. We read those comments the most often. You chat with each other. Tons of people have become friends there. We're super interactive. We do a lot of polls for our paying members. We sometimes do polls that drive the direction of the show. So that's amazing. There's no other show that's this interactive. And our home base for that is TYT.com. Come join us right now.
When you were growing up, what did you want to be?
I think I was starting to think I don't want to do one thing, and I did live up to that.
Well, mission accomplished then, because Dave was a geologist.
Yeah.
And now he's, helped found the Young Turks. Even within TYT, you've done a lot of different things.
Yeah.
So if you want to do different things, you nailed it. All right, last story to end on is a Dave story. Whenever there was something like obvious, glaring, he would go up and ask them about it. Like, it'd be like a giant church, right? And somebody's standing in front of it. The usual Dave go, pull up right in front of him. You're like, hey, do you know where there's a church around here? And they're like, right here. It's right here.
Practical jokes. Spice up life a little.
We've been around for about 20 years and we have about 20 billion views. Am I proud of that? Hell yeah, I am. We put out 20 billion messages in a bottle. Have we helped to move now 2 generations, millennials and Gen Z, to become progressive? Yes, those numbers are real. We moved generations. Were we the only ones? Of course not. But we have been the largest online news show for now decades.
shopdyt.com now has books. There's a whole bunch of books there. You're gonna be shocked to find out that they're largely progressive. Of course! Ryan Grimm's book, We've Got People, is there. It's a fantastic story from Jesse Jackson to Bernie Sanders to AOC that explains the progressive movement probably better than any book I've ever read. Speaking of awesome books, my dad's got a book out called The Original Young Turk, where he goes from the poorest olive farmer you ever met in your life to living the American dream.
You heard it with your own eyes. All right, back on TYT, Cenk and Michael with you guys. So a lot to get to in a short period of time. At 8 o'clock Eastern, we're going to do our crowdsourcing the revolution, peaceful one, of course. And a former congressperson joins us to tell us how to get the attention of congresspeople. So that's pretty neat. Yeah. She's going to come on as a guest, a former US Congresswoman. So stick around for that. Now, Melissa Allen, Martin Kring, Jasmine Estevez and David Ruffin, thank you for joining by hitting that big, beautiful join button below the video on YouTube. You guys are amazing and heroes. And Sid, thank you for gifting 5 Young Turks memberships. We do this show together, love it. All right, we've got a lot of news.
All right, let's get right to it. Take a look at this.
John Bolton was just indicted by a grand jury in Maryland. Do you have a reaction to that?
I didn't know that. You tell me for the first time, but I think he's, a bad person. I think he's a bad guy. Yeah, he's a bad guy. It's too bad, but that's the way it goes. That's the way it goes, right? That's the way it goes. Will I what?
Have you reviewed the case against him?
No, I haven't. But I just think he's a bad person.
That's the way it goes. That's the way it goes. Today, John Bolton, as you just heard President Trump say, it's his former national security advisor, and he was indicted by a grand jury. Cenk, it's another ladies and gentlemen, we got him situation. What are your first thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, look, I don't mind getting John Bolton. I hate John Bolton, but this is not what you do. So he says that he's going to target political enemies, and then he names the political enemies, and then he says they should be prosecuted. And then what an amazing coincidence, they wind up getting prosecuted. So if you don't realize that this is political prosecutions and really deeply un-American, you're missing it. I want to talk about the 2 reasons why you might be missing it a little bit later, but let's find out more.
Yeah, we have more on this as well, not just with Bolton, but with what Cenk just talked about. And yeah, for the president to say, I had no idea. Oh, really? You had no idea? This is a long line of a pattern of behavior from President Trump. But here is what the indictment says as it was issued today. From on or about April 9, 2018 through at least on or about August 22, 2025, Bolton abused his position as national security advisor by sharing more than 1,000 pages of information about his day-to-day activities as the national security advisor, including information relating to the national defense, which was classified up to the top secret SCI level with 2 unauthorized individuals. And it goes on to say Bolton was also unlawfully retained documents, writings, and notes relating to the national defense, including information classified up to the top secret SCI level in his home in Montgomery County, Maryland. And of course, Bolton and his attorney have both denied any mishandling of this classified material. Bolton's home, you'll remember, was raided by the FBI in August. Over a dozen items, including 2 phones and 3 computers, were seized at that time. 4 boxes, according to Fox News, 4 boxes containing what federal officials called printed daily activities also were hauled from Bolton's home, according to the documents. Now, Glenn Thrush, who writes for the New York Times, stated that Bolton's indictment has more, quote, foundation in evidence than the indictments against James Comey and Letitia James. The Bolton investigation, says Thrush, began under the Biden administration, and former officials involved with the inquiry have said that there was sufficient cause to believe Bolton had mishandled sensitive materials to warrant a search of his residence and office. And that investigation was later dropped. Now, of course, we know it's been revived. And ever since their falling out in Trump's first term, Bolton has been a harsh critic of Trump's, but not on every issue. Bolton strongly backed Trump's military strike on Iran's nuclear facilities in June,
Of course he did.
calling it a decisive action, the right thing to do, and praising its potential to generate huge change in the Middle East. Now, Cenk chuckled about that, and I did too. He just beat me to it. But at the same time, that was consistent with what Bolton had said previously in his role as national security advisor and then as a talking head. He always advocated for a strike against Iran. But of course, what we both are laughing at, and I'm speaking for Cenk, but I know it, is the fact that, I'm going to support this guy now that I know that my home was raided and all these things are happening to me. And of course, it didn't happen. I think the home was raided in August, but he knew what was going on. He knew these indictments were afoot. So why not kiss up to the indictor in chief? What do you think, Cenk?
Yeah, I don't know that he did it for that. I mean, he's a neocon. He loves all wars. So that's why, I'm not going to shed a tear for John Bolton if a normal mishap happens to him, right? But this is not normal. This isn't about John Bolton. It's about us, our rights, and our democracy and our government. How do we carry ourselves, whether it is friend or foe, politically, right? So, okay, so first let's break down the case and then let's break down why people might not see it clearly. So number one is, look, they authorized him to write a book. He asked them, went through a process, says, okay, I have these documents, are they classified or not classified? Can I put them in the book, can I not? They go through that very laborious process and they absolutely authorize him to write it and to include those documents. And now afterwards they want to say, no, we changed our mind. Now you're guilty. Nah, that's crazy. No, we can't do that. So now, is there some credibility to the investigation as opposed to the Comey one, which is just laughable, no basis at all, right? So,
or the James one, by the way, which I think has less.
Oh, Letitia James. Yeah. Again, we broke it down. She says in most of the documents, this is not my primary residence. She even capitalizes it. Okay. Anyway, so in this case, it started under Biden. Okay. And might he take, is John Bolton the type of character who might take home classified documents he shouldn't? Okay, so it's not like it's implausible. There's no way John Bolton could have done it, right? But they did go through an investigation. They did conclude it, and the Biden team is not really any friendlier to Bolton than the Trump team is.
Right.
Like he's not really liked by anyone other than the neocons, and because he served under Trump as well. So okay, we have prior authorization. We've already had a concluded investigation. And then you have the president going, okay, here's the people I don't like. That James Comey, Letitia James, John Bolton. I wish they were prosecuted. If an attorney general was a good guy, they would prosecute him, right? I'm just saying. And then they get prosecuted. Guys, is this complicated? This is not complicated. We see what's happening here. So, and then of course, then you are left with, yes, one more thing. People are now saying on the right that are in favor of this. Well, of course you raid someone's home if they have unauthorized documents. Really, guys? You forgot like a minute ago? How could they invade Mar-a-Lago for unauthorized documents? That's his home. That's where he lives. Okay, I can't believe you guys raided his home for unauthorized. How can you switch in like a matter of seconds to like, oh, of course you raid. That's what you do. Okay, so all right, now, so why, this is glaringly obvious, right? So why could people be missing? And first of all, of course, you have normal blindness. And in this era, I mean, with Biden's age to like the folks supporting Israel not being able to see the genocide, to Republicans who can't see this. To me, we're in the age of awakening, but before most people wake up, you realize how blind everyone was. Republicans, Democrats, this, that, the other thing. Everyone is like unbelievably blind. So like Democrats are like, what do you mean? Is Biden 27 or 28? I can't figure it out. He's so young and spry. And you're like, no, how could you possibly think that? He's in the 30s. Oh yeah, incumbents in the 30s win all the time. No, they literally never win, right? Okay, so now you turn here and people are like, oh no, every single thing we complained about, we should do right now. How could you not see it, right? Okay, so the second potential reason is the whataboutism. So we're gonna get that from here to eternity. Did you know that Obama actually also did this? Okay, guys, so let's say, okay, first of all, we're the one show, maybe there are others like Democracy Now!, maybe you could name at most a handful, right? But that have been consistent about our principles throughout, right? So when Obama did drone strikes that were unauthorized and unconstitutional, not just regular old drone strikes, which I don't like to begin with, but ones against American citizens without judicial due process, we were living on the show. When Biden was BSing everybody about his age, we were living on the show. We don't do whataboutisms, okay? We do principles here. So if you believed in the principle of do not target your political opponents, what do you, this is targeting your political opponents. So to me, you could go with the cliche, two wrongs don't make a right. But like, if you're in politics or you care about this stuff, are you like, what is the right thing to do? They did it, so I'm gonna do it. Or is the right thing to do, hey guys, this was fundamentally wrong. And we called it out before and the other side was doing it. Now look at us, we're the better guys. We're the ones who are true to America, to our Constitution, et cetera. And we're gonna cut that crap out and nobody's gonna do that anymore. And no, we're not gonna illegally and unconstitutionally arrest our political opponents. Yeah. That would seem to be the way to go, no matter which side you're on.
Right, except, and there's no except, he ran on this. Like he was packing, or somewhat packing, stadiums and arenas around the country saying, and when we get back in office, we're gonna go after Shifty Schiff, and we're gonna go after that Attorney General in New York, and we're gonna go after James Comey, and we're gonna do all these things. So in a sense, he is continuing to deliver on this ironic promise that he made, right? You just pointed it out perfectly, Cenk. I mean, he is talking about doing exactly what he was irate about having done to him, which is when they raided Mar-a-Lago. He's also, his administration is accused, he knows nothing about this, by the way. We have to remember that. We heard him in the Oval Office. Is that he is doing exactly, well, he's going after somebody for doing exactly what he did and others did. And we saw that there were flaws in the way things are archived. And we saw that confidential information and confidential papers are not, the custodians of those items are not doing what they should be doing. And so, yeah, that's what is so infuriating, as well as everything that you just said, Cenk. So
yeah, look, fairest show in America. There's some chance that Trump is not technically lying when he says that, because he said, "Well, go prosecute John Bolton. I don't like him." He said, "Okay." Yeah. Does he know all the details?
No,
you know what I'm saying?
Right, but
he probably doesn't.
Yeah, but he right. He wanted him prosecuted. And he was prosecuted.
He doesn't need to know the details.
I believe that he didn't know that even the prosecution was handed down today. I believe that's quite possible.
That's right. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
But like, did he ask them to do it? Of course, he said he did it on TV. Right. We all saw it, right? All right.
And John Bolton is not a good guy. I mean, we've established that for
sure.
years. But by the same token, you don't run an administration this way, and politics of attacking your enemies is unacceptable.
So super last thing is, like, look, it's political retribution. And to Michael's point on the campaign trail, he was promising political retribution. And he was saying, I'm gonna get basically revenge and stuff. Okay, so at least Trump was honest about that. But then whenever his team was challenged about that, his team was like, how dare you insinuate that he would do political prosecutions? Well, that's outrageous. Well, he just said it on stage, on television, right? And now you're doing it on stage, on television, right? Like, how dare you suggest? Oh, please, just please move on. I can't stand the fake politics of it. I can't stand it from either side. And in this case, the Trump people are like the queens of like, oh, I'm so offended. I've got the vapors. I can't believe you're suggesting this is political prosecution. Right. Come on, guys, come on, at least be honest.
Right.
All right, we got to take a break here. Now, when we come back, even more disasters because they're thinking of taking our freedom of speech away. Texas has an outrageous case, and maybe even like, I don't know, these are all parade of horribles, but also the IRS now potentially being used to target political opponents. This is not democracy. All right, we'll be back.
I did everything right and they indicted me.
Free speech.
back during the social break. I'm gonna read a lot of these blind because I just got here. Kelly Millie Mo says, this is on Super Chat. AOC lost her shot at the presidency with the pretentious and smug response about the willingness to work on a bill with Marjorie Taylor Greene. Like not even to help Americans keep their health care and to end the shutdown. Yeah, look, so I don't think she should run for president. I think she should run for Senate in New York, knock out Schumer. But in terms of her response, I didn't love the response at all. And so you're supposed to care about policies, eyes on the prize. The policies are the answer. So if Marjorie Taylor Greene's coming to you in anti-war, she's coming towards you in lowering healthcare premiums, the correct answer is yes, right? And by the way, Bernie, to his credit, said yes. So we got to get past it. She's still stuck in the old days of like, no, ew, yucky right-winger. Oh, I can't believe yucky right-winger is agreeing with me. I'm gonna push her away, right? Don't do that, okay? But again, we might be over-extrapolating what she said and how she said it, right? So bottom line is votes, actions rather than speech. But obviously I see where you're coming from. All right, let's go to YouTube members. Robbie David said all of Trump's accusations are illustrations of his guilt. Methinks he doth protest too much. Well, look, did he do all those things he was charged with? Of course. And really the main defense that I know a lot of right-wingers think he didn't, right? But I think a lot of them, maybe even a bigger portion of think he did, but you shouldn't target him because he's in politics and he represents us. And it's not right, etc.
Yeah, they don't care.
Yeah, and they don't care. Yeah, that's another giant chunk, right?
I did everything right and they indicted me.
Okay, Simon Moody says, but Bolton didn't have the magical eye superpower to declassify with one glance, so guilty. By the way, people will actually say that, not literally, right? But they'll be like, no, but Trump's the president, so he can laser eye it, right? And Bolton was only the national security advisor. He cannot laser eye it. And in fact, I say laser eye, but Trump once said, not only can he declassify by looking at the documents, but even just thinking about the documents. Even if he didn't tell anyone else that it was declassified, he did it in a daydream like months ago in his head. So, but if you believe that, then you'll believe anything. So then I can't, there's no point, right?
Yeah, I've won every sports bet I've ever made because I believe that I won.
Yeah. Once I laser-eyed a sports bet. Shockingly, it didn't work.
Still didn't work.
Christina Elisa Brown said, I love how Cenk and Michael are so color coordinated. They look great together. Oh, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, a little bit. Usually I do that with John. All right, Box says, I was not a fan of the lawfare against Trump, and I'm not a fan of it now. There you go, way to be principled, Box. Love it. Kevin Shea said, geez, have none of these people ever heard of paper shredder? That's another good point. Although you might get in more trouble if you shred classified documents. Aaron Bushnell says Trump can classify in his brain across time and space. So which is, of course, an excellent point. We'll be back. Back on TYT, Cenk and Michael with you guys. Just two super quick comments from members on TYT.com. Teddy Lucy Linda said, even Jasmine Crockett announced she will work with MTG. We're making progress. Okay, on the things we agree on. Lou B says, my two favorite hosts. Wow. Oh, okay, we'll take it, Lou.
We'll take it, Lou.
Sweet Lou, we appreciate it.
Sweet Lou. They're not booing, they're saying Lou.
Okay, all right. King B.
Right. So more on a theme, Cenk, as we just discussed. The Trump administration now ramping up their obvious efforts, as we all know, to target political opponents and liberal-leaning groups, this time by doing a major overhaul at the Internal Revenue Service. They plan to install, you're not going to believe this, Trump loyalists, giving the president even more power over who becomes the target of law enforcement and, of course, of tax enforcement. Before we get into that story, what's your first gut feeling about this?
Yeah, so this is one of the worst ones, guys, because once the person in power starts using the power of the tax collectors and to go after people, it's good night, Irene. because then you could bankrupt almost all of your political opponents. You say, oh yeah, that was for nonprofit. Oh, we took the nonprofit status away. Oh, you missed the line on your taxes. That's it, you're screwed. And you might even go to jail, right? So this is deeply, deeply troubling. But as usual, somehow Israel gets into this story. What? Okay, well, I'll explain that a little bit later, okay?
All right, let's get into this a little bit. According to reporting out now by the Wall Street Journal, the sweeping changes in the Trump administration at the IRS that they're about to make, that they're on the precipice of making, would allow the agency to pursue criminal inquiries of left-leaning groups more easily, according to people familiar with the matter. The undertaking aims to install allies of President Trump at the IRS Criminal Investigative Division, or IRS-CI, to exert firmer control over the unit and weaken the involvement of IRS lawyers in criminal investigations, officials said. The proposed changes could open the door to politically motivated probes and are being driven by Gary Shapley, an advisor to Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. So Shapley has now reportedly told people that he plans to replace Guy Fico, who has been the chief of the investigative unit there for many years, for decades actually. He's also pushing new rules that would speed up criminal probes and subject them to less oversight from the attorneys, from IRS attorneys. So who do they plan to target? Well, you could probably write the rest of this yourself. You didn't need the Wall Street Journal, but listen to this. Shapley has been putting together a list of donors and groups he believes IRS investigators should look at. Among those on the list are the billionaire Democratic donor George Soros and his affiliated groups, according to a senior IRS official and another person briefed on the list. It couldn't be determined upon what grounds Shapley would seek to begin such an investigation. As we know, Donald Trump has had his sights set on George Soros, as he's held out there as kind of a boogeyman for a long time. So Trump previously said on Truth Social that Soros and his son Alex should face federal charges under the RICO Act, and added in a separate interview that the elder Soros should be in jail without offering specific reasons. A senior Justice Department official recently urged several U.S. attorneys' offices to investigate Soros's Open Society foundations. We talked earlier about how his campaign rallies were filled with this sort of vindictive talk. Well, George Soros locking him up was always something, or was part of a refrain there. The IRS-CI overhaul is just one part, though, of a larger Trump administration overhaul and an effort to investigate left-leaning groups that Trump doesn't like. Trump has ordered Bessent, as the acting IRS commissioner, to refer certain tax-exempt organizations to the Justice Department for further investigation. Bessent has also been directed to use the Treasury's Terrorism and Financial Intelligence Office to examine groups' financial flows and try to trace any illicit funding streams. So, no surprise here, my friend, right? I mean, this is what he said he was going to do. Who's in the target and in the crosshairs here? Not a surprise. Changing the people so to make it easier. What do you think?
Actually, nevertheless, I'm surprised by this one. And the reason is this is.
How can you still be surprised?
No. When he says, "Hey, look, I want both George Soros and his son Alex Soros investigated under the RICO Act. I want them targeted, and I want the elder Soros to be arrested." That's not subtle. I didn't miss that. Okay, and then here they are looking after Soros and his foundations through the IRS. The part that I'm a little surprised by is this is really extreme. Like, this is even more beyond the pale than I would have thought that they would go. And maybe that's me being a little naive. Like, and it's kind of a weird thing to say because I thought they would arrest their political opponents. So how is this more extreme? No, once you take the IRS and say we're not, like, the power of the IRS is massive. It's not 2 or 3 political opponents that you do fake charges on. But remember, they're going to go through the courts and they're very, very, very likely to be found innocent, right? Now, it's going to mess up their lives and it costs them a lot of money, and it's so disastrous in 1,000 ways. But once the IRS starts doing this, they can target anyone. They can target all of their opponents, and then they drain their finances, maybe put them in jail, and then it's easier to get people on taxes because people, like, even if they're being super honest, can make mistakes that you could then go, you said this deduction was this, but it's actually this, right? And so once you go politicize the IRS, like you're on a fast track to doom. That you no longer have an honest government. And I mean, imagine if the Democrats were in charge. Again, if you're on the right wing or you're independent or you voted for Trump, right? Imagine Democrats go, no, it's good. We're not targeting all conservatives by using the IRS. I know that a lot of them think that that's what happened under Obama for like a minute about this one fake scandal. I know you don't think it's fake. We broke that down at the time on the Young Turks. They found out later, and this is what drives me crazy, and none of your right-wing shows ever told you, it turns out they actually targeted liberal groups even a smidge more than conservative groups, so it was not partisan at all, whether they should have done it or not. But again, even if you thought, no, Cenk, I don't believe you, I think Obama was terrible and he did this, and yeah, it was limited, and yes, they withdrew it, and yes, they did whatever, but I hated it. Good, I love that you hated it. You should also hate this. It's this same thing, but on steroids. Even if what Obama did was true, right? Even if you're right about that, this is 100 times that. And even if it was just 1 times that. If you hate it under Obama, you should hate it under Trump. So, okay, now let's get to the details because these are so important. You can tell bad intent because of what Michael read you in the beginning. They're weakening the power of the lawyers within the IRS. Now, why would you do that? You do that because the lawyers tell you what is illegal and what you can't do. Saying, lawyers, get the hell out of the room, and soon you'll all be fired, okay? And by the way, they did this also at the SEC and other places.
Well, in a way, they've done it at the IRS already by telling the IRS to reduce the number of audits they're doing because they know that all the wealthy people that are in Trump world were being audited, or I shouldn't say all of them, several people being audited were part of Trump world. That by weakening the IRS, now they're weakening the legal side of the IRS. And then earlier they weakened the investigative side. So that's the same kind of politicization of the IRS, just in a default kind of a way.
Think about that double whammy. So like, let's go talk about the IRS. So if you say, okay, guys, we're going to target, get the stinking lawyers out of the room. That's my political opponent, that's my political moment. And by the way, I got 200 of them that are doing nonprofits or PACs or super PACs, etc. We're just gonna rip them to shreds by using the IRS. But also, we're gonna tell the right wing or the Republicans or whoever's on our side, go nuts, there's no more lawyers. We're not gonna look into you guys at all. So you could cheat to hell, it doesn't matter, no one's gonna prosecute. Imagine the Trump administration prosecuting a Republican supporting Trump. Come on, you know that's never gonna happen.
Not a chance.
Please be honest, right? So then, okay. So now you've destroyed a political opposition, whether you like it or not, and you've empowered your side to cheat. What do you think is going to happen in the next election? They're going to spend $1 gazillion. You're not going to be able to spend any dollars. It's a form of cheating in the elections, let alone destroying the IRS. Okay, and the honesty of our government. Okay, last 2 things that are super important. So that explains the Soros. Open Society Foundations. But there's a second part of it, which I didn't know this until recently. Because like people are always saying, anti-Semitism about Israel, et cetera, et cetera. I'm like, wait a minute, the right wing's constantly talking about George Soros, the Jewish billionaire, secretly controlling everyone like puppets, et cetera. I mean, that's supposed to be an anti-Semitic trope. How come nobody ever pushes back against that? Like, I understand the right wing doing it, through the history. There's a history of that, et cetera, right? But why is like ADL, they do a mild pushback on it, AIPAC, all these different parts of the establishment not pushing back on that through all these years. It turns out Soros is sympathetic to the Palestinians. So his religion doesn't matter. If you're anti or pro-Israel is what matters, okay? And you think, okay, well, Cenk, that's a bit much. Hold on, no, this is the part I was referring to. Wall Street Journal reporting, the administration officials sought to use the illegality doctrine, a rule that causes nonprofits to forfeit their status if they break the law. And if they forfeit their status, that could destroy them, right? Because then they can't take in money in the way that they did for a nonprofit. For example, they explained, the administration officials at the IRS argued that campuses roiled by pro-Palestine protests should lose their status, arguing that allowing such demonstrations was a form of support for terrorism. So you heard that right. Not if you're anti-Israel, not if you're anti-Semitic, but if you're just pro-Palestine and you allowed that freedom of speech on a college campus, they're gonna call you a terrorist, or they're gonna call the university a terrorist, strip you of your nonprofit status, and destroy the university entirely. I mean, if that's not an attack on freedom of speech, I don't know what is. That's insanity. And what we're destroying people through the IRS for opposing a foreign government? You see what I'm saying, guys? Be careful what you wish for. If you think, oh, it's okay, if the IRS is on my side when it's cheating. Is it? Have you ever criticized Israel? Have you ever criticized someone you shouldn't have criticized? Well, the IRS can do similar things to you. Because once this starts, it's super hard to stop.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I'm in a good spot because I criticize you, and they're definitely not going to come after me for criticizing you. So
that's a good form of protection. Think about it. Oh yeah, the internet did think about it. That's why the entire internet is criticized.
I do want to just go into this very briefly. So we've talked about all this targeting and the targeting that's happening. It's not ending now. Just yesterday, the president was in front of his attorney general and the head of the FBI, Pam Bondi and Kash Patel, respectively, and he was saying, I'm going after Jack Smith. I'm not done. Listen.
FBI Director and Attorney General here today. Jim Jordan has asked Jack Smith to appear in front of the House Judiciary.
You mean deranged, Jack? He's a deranged individual, yeah.
He's asked him to.
Well, they should. I'm surprised it takes so long. We're talking about violent crime. What about the crime against a political opponent? That's what we have to talk about too.
We'd like to understand the full extent to which the Biden-Harris Justice Department weaponized federal law enforcement. What do you think the committee will find out, Mr. Smith?
I think it was the worst weaponization of a political opponent in the history of the world, let alone this country. And I hope that everybody's, they're involved in it. I'm not. I'm the one that had to suffer through it and ultimately win. But what they did was criminal. Deranged Jack Smith, in my opinion, is a criminal.
His opinion is a criminal. The president wasn't done. Let's listen to this because he's got a list and he's checking it twice. Here he is.
Deranged Jack Smith, in my opinion, is a criminal. And I noticed his interviewer was, I think that was Weissman. And I hope they're going to look into Weissman too. Weissman's a bad guy. And he had somebody in Lisa, who was his puppet, worked in the office really as the top person. And I think that she should be looked at very strongly. There was tremendous criminal activity having to do. If we don't have fair elections in this country, we're not going to have a country. I hope they're looking at Shifty Schiff. I hope they're looking at all these people. And I'm allowed to find out. I'm allowed to, I'm in theory the chief law enforcement officer. But I have a very good, talented group. This is about something else. But I hope they're looking at political crime because there's never been so much political crime against a political opponent as what I had to go through.
He's saying this in front of the director of the FBI and the attorney general, essentially emasculating the law enforcement branches of our government in doing that. He's talking about Andrew Weissman, who was a prosecutor, an investigator on the Russia crisis, and Lisa Monaco, who was the deputy attorney general under President Biden.
Yeah, so he says while they're sitting there, Jack Smith and Andrew Weissman and that Lisa chick, she should definitely be prosecuted, right, guys? Right, guys? Like the attorney general and the head of the FBI, et cetera, are supposed to be looking at the law, not politics. They're supposed to see if there's a crime and then prosecute that crime. They're not supposed to say, oh, that is a political opponent. Let's see if we can dig up something on him because the president ordered us to. That is wildly illegal, wrong, unconstitutional. Everything.
He's taking their autonomy away. They're autonomous departments, and he's saying this is what we're going to do. And like you said, essentially saying it in front of these two people who are nodding along as they always do.
Yeah, and I'm always amused by the irony of him saying he's deranged. I mean, there is somebody acting deranged. I'm not sure that it's Jack Smith. So, okay, last thing is, guys, if you say now, no, you're being ridiculous. You think that they're just going to prosecute him because the president said he's their political opponents and didn't like him? All right, let's see if they wind up doing it to Jack Smith and Andrew Weissman and Lisa. Okay, just like when he said John Bolton, and they indicted John Bolton today, James Comey, Letitia James, he did the same exact thing with them, and they all got indicted on the most trumped up charges, including where prosecutors, right-wing prosecutors were like, I'm not doing this. This is the wrong, illegal nonsense. I'm not prosecuting someone because you don't like them. And he's like, you're fired. I got my personal attorney who come and, okay, oh, well, she's an expert? No, she's never tried a single criminal case, but she's the only one that'll listen to me. Yeah, because you're asking her to break the law, right? Yeah, totally. So that's the situation we're in, and that's a disaster. Look, it's at some point, there has to be electoral consequences. Otherwise, he's just gonna keep on going until there is no democracy.
Yeah. I was on a subway with a friend of mine, and Lisa Monaco was on the subway, and I said to my friend, that's Lisa Monaco. And he said to me, you're a loser.
You know, that Lisa lady.
Right, okay. She should be indicted very strongly.
Did you go up and tell her that?
I told her that.
All right, it's all fun and games until she gets arrested. Anyways, all right, we'll be right back.
I did everything right and they indicted me.
Back on the social break. CK Progressive writes in on TYT.com. If you guys want some good news, Mamdani's debating Cuomo and Sliwa right now. Not surprisingly, he's kicking both of their asses. Well, it's like great, wonderful. I think it's not that hard. Cuomo's like, well, you know, the status quo is not so bad. I think we should just kind of coast along, which is like the worst possible campaign message. And Sliwa was like, when we get in charge, we tase everyone and beat them over the head. Right, you're like, all right, brother, all right, okay. But if you're a right winger in New York and you're gonna vote, you're crazy to vote for Andrew Cuomo after all the things you guys have said about him. All right, be honest, be earnest, vote for Sliwa, right? Like I want people to vote for Mamdani, but if you're a right winger and you're like, oh, socialist, commie, whatever, right? You're gonna vote for Andrew Cuomo? Okay, Sliwa's he's at least, I mean, he's real, right?
He is real,
right? Yeah. So he's absurd, but he's not faking it. He's actually absurd. Yeah. Jack Callahan says, and he's certainly not part of the system. Let's put it that way. Jack Callahan says Trump is on purge crusade and it's getting worse. Yep. Cray Souffle says, Comey, Bolton, and others who got on the stupid ass Trump crazy train. Stevie Wonder could have seen this crap coming. Okay. South of Cloud 9, I think we would have gotten canceled for even reading that at some point. South of Cloud 9 says, my God, it's not even a year. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So, but that's what I'm saying. Like, guys, like this is where we really need allies, the podcasters, et cetera, to push back with us. Because if there's no pushback, that IRS thing is disastrous. Arresting your political opponents is disastrous. We got all push back in an effective way. Not alienating people, but bringing people to our side to do a wall to protect the Constitution. All right, big old a-hole writes in, such as it is. We are missing the whole point of this healthcare fight. It's about lowering premiums and not having some form of universal healthcare. To me, nobody has their eyes on the goal. So look, universal healthcare makes sense. We made an excellent case for it back in 2016 and 2020 and almost won with the candidate who was in favor of this. Now it's so far away. Corruption, et cetera, the corporate guys, the establishment guys have won so thoroughly on that. We have to get the universal healthcare, but it's not gonna be easy. It's gonna be super hard, I'm being real. Jojo Dragon says, Cenk, forget about attacking freedom of speech. This is cancel culture, and obviously it is. They're canceling their freedom. All right, we'll be right back.
If you're the president of the United States, you can declassify just by saying it's declassified, even by thinking about it.
All right, back on TYT, Cenk and Michael with you guys. And Karma Sharma just joined, which is a super fun handle.
Right.
Okay, happy to have Karma on our side.
Although if your last name is Sharma, that doesn't seem fair to name your kid Karma.
Not sure that that's an actual name. Okay, but anyways, thanks for joining. We love it. All right, Mike.
All right, well, who on a Thursday doesn't want to hear a little bit from Senator Ted Cruz? Take a listen.
We will enforce the law, especially against universities across this country. The anti-Semitic protests we've seen at universities will end next year. If you violently protest, if you threaten your fellow students, you will be arrested, you will be expelled, and if you're a foreigner, you will be deported.
Well, there he is, Senator Ted Cruz, whose state of Texas really did try to shut down free speech on their college campuses, including trying to ban free speech after 10 p.m. So a judge looked at that, shot it down, and he shot it down in the most epic way possible. Senate Bill 2972, which is the Campus Protection Act in Texas, was passed during Texas' legislative session earlier this year and amended a 2019 law that had reinforced First Amendment free speech rights on college campuses, imposing a new mandate that state universities adopt new restrictions to, quote, prevent disruption and ensure community safety in the wake of the protests about the Israel-Hamas war. Among these restrictions listed in this Senate bill were a ban on expressive activities defined as any speech or expressive conduct protected by the First Amendment between 10 p.m. and 8 a.m. throughout the year, like a parking restriction. And three prohibitions that applied during the last 2 weeks of a term: banning inviting guest speakers to campus, amplifying sound, and engaging in expressive activities by using drums or other percussive instruments. Cenk, I'm going to give you some free speech. You are free to tell me what you think of this.
So guys, drums aren't the issue. There's already noise restrictions. No, this was so broad that if you wore a hat with a perceived political message on it, banned. Op-ed in the middle of the night, banned. Breaking news by the college newspaper after 10 o'clock, banned. Chatting with your roommates or hallmates on campus after 10 o'clock about political things, if someone didn't like that political speech, banned. Okay, that's insane and nowhere near America. And yet again, you saw it in the Ted Cruz speech, and this law expressly talked about you're not allowed to criticize Israel. What is this? What level of insanity have we gotten to where we're gonna arrest people and take away their freedom of speech? First of all, on anything related to speech, the First Amendment is not unclear, right? But secondly, on criticizing a foreign government, ludicrous, ludicrous.
Well, so you can imagine that once these things came out, the bill's initial passage was, of course, met with intense backlash from student groups, from college papers, student organizations at both UT Austin, most especially, and in Dallas, at UT Dallas. So they literally, these students, brought fire. They brought the Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression, FIRE, a nonpartisan free speech advocacy nonprofit that filed a lawsuit on behalf of these students, and they stated that the bill was a shocking prohibition of protected speech at public universities that granted unconstitutionally broad powers to Texas universities, giving them the power to discipline students at nighttime for wearing a hat with a political message, playing music, writing an op-ed, attending candlelight vigils, even just chatting with friends. They also noted that UT Dallas is in independent student newspaper, The Retrograde, if it tells you anything about the independents, would suffer. Much of its staff's news gathering and reporting necessarily happens after Texas's 10 p.m. free speech cutoff, and the student journalists worried about the risk of being shut down simply for posting breaking news as it happens, as Retrograde editor-in-chief Gregorio Olivares Gutierrez put it. And U.S. District Judge David Allen Ezra, boy, did he agree, putting a preliminary injunction to bar the state from enforcing this at any UT campus. This is what he said. The First Amendment does not have a bedtime of 10 p.m. The burden is on the government to prove that its actions are narrowly tailored to achieve a compelling governmental interest. It has not done so. Ezra went on to say the legislature had granted universities the ability to weaponize the policy against speech it disagrees with, contrary to the purposes of the First Amendment. And the government most certainly failed to show the law was narrowly tailored because it bans all expressive activity for 10 hours a day. I mean, first of all, we both said this in the meeting this morning. We were floored by the eloquence of the First Amendment does not have a bedtime at 10 p.m. I mean, it's both a layup and it really sends it home, Cenk, for me.
Yeah, he's a Reagan-appointed judge, and he's like, the First Amendment is perfectly clear. And if you want to take away First Amendment rights, you have to meet an extraordinary burden. Here, before the case even got started, he's like, nope, I'm stopping this law. We're gonna have the case, but while we're doing it, you are not allowed to do this because there's already overwhelming proof that you're violating the First Amendment and you have no justification for it, and this is absurd. So no, this is not to go into effect. And so it means that when the actual case happens, that Texas is very likely to lose here. And guys, what happened? What happened to freedom of speech? I mean, I swear it was just like a minute ago that you were doing the campaign and your central issue for Trump was freedom of speech.
Don't cancel freedom of speech.
Yeah, I mean, how is this not cancel culture? How is this not taking away freedom of speech? They take away speech for 10 hours out of the day. And what is that? Okay, all right, I guess we'll have to criticize Israel or Trump or whoever or Biden or anyone, I don't know. Well, they're not gonna apply it if you criticize Biden. They're only gonna apply it if you criticize the right wing or Trump or a different country that they're getting paid by, okay? So if you do that, you're gonna have to do it in the morning.
Right, you can't wear your MAGA hat at midnight either, I guess, right?
Yeah, technically you're not supposed to wear a MAGA hat either. Yeah. My guess is they're gonna let that one slide. Yeah. But if you're gonna do it, maybe the afternoon, hit the sweet spot of free speech. Okay, all right guys. Post-game coming up, crowdsourcing the revolution. Former Congresswoman joins us to tell us how to get their attention. I love that. Michael, thank you, brother. We'll see you guys in a minute. Yeah. revolution, such as it is. I'm going to clarify as many times as I can. Peaceful, nonviolent revolution, democratic revolution. Okay, so what are we revolting against? The obvious corruption of the politicians, right? They take PAC money, they serve the donors. There's no question about it. The only ignoramuses that are still denying it are mainstream media, are all the reporters that can't. Where is money? Oh, did billions of dollars affect these lovely politicians? I cannot tell. Okay, so we're gonna get to some parts of that in a second. But guys, first I gotta tell you, super interesting. We're trying to affect Congress. We're trying to push them from the outside to do the right thing. Former member of Congress is going to join us tonight, and she's gonna tell us how to do it. So Marie Newman was a US representative from Illinois, and she's gonna join us in about 10 minutes and tell us, hey, if you wanna affect your local representative, your congressman, this is how you do it. That's awesome. So we're gonna find out together, okay? So before we get to that, I gotta tell you a whole bunch of things, okay? So we asked you guys to come up with a way to reach Tim Burchett, because one of the things that we're pushing is a bill for lower drug prices. It's Donald Trump's executive order, verbatim. And so there's no reason why very right-wing Tim Burchett should not sign on to that bill. It's already got 3 Republican co-sponsors. And so, and I didn't want to do the social media post. I wanted you guys to do it so that we could all push together and empower you guys to do all this in social media. So Eclectic Miscellanea, who's a part of the Operation Hope Working Group, kind of a legendary TYT viewer and member, asked Tim Burchett to do it. So do we have that? Can we put that up? Okay, so we'll see if we have that as a graphic. I should have probably coordinated that better. But anyways, his handle is on X at Eclectic, that's ECLECTIC. Oh my God, we should have definitely done this as a graphic. Anyway, and then Miscellaneous, just MISC. God, that's a hard one. Eclectic Miss C, okay? And I liked it. If you can, find it on X and repost it. Here, I'll do a quote on it, and you could find it through mine too. We're asking members of Congress to do this while I'm doing it too, if you don't mind. I'm gonna give you updates in a second, but we've got to get these folks to begin to respond. I have updates on some members of Congress that have gotten back to us. We're asking members of Congress to lower drug prices. Okay, so that's Burchett's information. And so you could take this and turn it into a social media post as well. You could do it on Instagram. You see his handle on Insta, on X, etc. And so I'm saying this should be a layup for Representative Burchett. And I'm literally gonna look on there, Tim Burchett on X. So thank you for putting that graphic up, because this is Trump's executive order, word by word. Okay, so we're asking members of Congress to lower drug prices. This should be a layup for Tim Burchett because this is Trump's executive order, word by word. Okay, send. Okay, so there it is. So I saw this, more of you liked it as we've been doing this segment. So he's got others too. He also asked AOC to do it. Look, I'm not gonna go through that whole process again. I'll do it off air. But he also wrote AOC should, oh, I'm sorry, this is Michael Napin, it's someone else. Should support HR 3493 for transparency and drug pricing. I love that, I'm gonna heart that as well. Michael's normal spelling and Napin is KNAEPEN. But you know what, guys? I'll retweet both of these. I already did Eclectics. I'll do Michael's after the show, and go and like theirs, share theirs. First of all, as we explained, everything here is optional. Do whatever you're comfortable with. Like, for example, this bill lowers drug prices. If you say no, the poor pharmaceutical companies, they're just not making enough trillions of dollars. So no, I want to pay more. Okay, then or you say, you know what? I love the policy. I agree with the policy. We should pay the same as the other developed nations on average. But since Trump proposed it, then I don't want to do it. Okay, that's up to you. All right, everything is optional. But my God, imagine if we got lower drug prices through this. Okay, so got word back from further word back from Representative Mark Pocan's office that they are seriously considering supporting this. I can't speak for them, and I don't know where they're going to come out, but that's good news. And so Pocan's on the left, Burchett's on the right. Trump's executive order, basically Democratic policy. No reason for anyone to object. By the way, even though this is such an obvious layup, such a good example, because if you poll the voters on this, it come in at over 90%. It has 5 co-sponsors so far, just 5. Okay, but if we get it up to 100, then it's going to start to become undeniable. One thing at a time. Let's try to get one, and then another, and then another, and let's begin to use the muscles of crowdsourcing, right? So now a lot of people, by the way, also posted on X, Blue Sky, Insta, and Facebook. Okay, and then somebody said that they love the idea of the paper trail for the members of Congress. How much money did they take from the donors, and did they vote with them? How did they vote? So does it match? Our guess is it'll match about 98%. You might get a random 1 or 2, right? But overall, the politicians, you will see if we do that effectively, vote with their donors nearly 100% of the time. So the rest of politics is a joke. It's a BS movie that mainstream media is playing for you. It's not real. What's real is the money. So along those lines, people liked it, and on the discussion board, there was a discussion around it, and they started calling it Project Paper Trail. Ooh, I like that. So here it is. Project for Progress started it, saying, hi everyone, I originally shared this idea and ideas, but I wanted to post it here too so we can get a broader conversation going. Arpon from TYT reached out to me. Turns out he's a computer science teacher and he's going to start working on this project. I believe Cenk may have even mentioned it on tonight's show, which I'll catch up on tomorrow. The core idea is to build a public tracker / database that correlates voting records with campaign contributions for each member of Congress, every governor, and modern day presidents, Clinton through Trump. The goal is to make it simple to navigate. You'll be able to sort by lobby and instantly see what percentage of each politician's funding comes from each one of those lobbies. It'll be similar to Open Secrets, except you won't have to dig through the data yourself. The money will be shown right next to the voting record. While writing this, I thought of an even more powerful extension, combining it with the Children of Gaza project. Okay, we'll get to that later. So now, I love this, okay? Now, can we do this in a way that is effective? So, Cara, I don't know. Can you text me and tell me if we got the URLs so we can ask them about it? And then, so guys, again, if you told me, hey, Cenk, find a bunch of web developers and use AI to make this a much more efficient system, and then be able to fact check it all by yourself or all by ourselves here at TYT, it's too hard, right? But if we all do it together, I'm hoping that it gets easier. Right? And so I love the fact that you guys are already working on it. I love that we've got some coders on it. Look at this, Hamright, thank you for joining, appreciate it. Okay, we got it? Okay, so Cara, can you then send me the options and we'll put it up in the live chat and on tyt.com. So what we did was, to make this project happen, we bought a bunch of URLs, just like we did with kidsofgaza.com and others. Oh, poll's already up on the homepage. Okay, but I need it. I could just go to the homepage. So go to tyt.com and you'll see the poll there, but actually you don't even need to go there because the live chat will have it. So what we're gonna ask you to do, guys, is to vote on the name of the URL. So we want this to be as inclusive as we can. So here are your options. Get to voting both on tyt.com and on the live chat. Boughtbills.com. to show you how the bills were bought by the donors. Corruptionwatch.us, trackcongress.com, trackdonors.com, trackcorruption.us. So those are your choices. Honestly, I'm indifferent. I want you guys to pick. So we'll take a look at it. We'll see if the voting matches. We'll weigh the TYT.com a little bit heavier because that's where Operation Hope started, and that's where the working group is from, et cetera. But hopefully it'll be pretty obvious, and we'll pick one of those based on what you suggest, and then voila, we got the URL. And then if you want to coordinate on building any of these sites, email hope@tyt.com. Okay. So that one we got to coordinate because we got to somehow get you the URL and allow you to be able to edit within that URL. So make sure you're coordinating at hope@tyt.com. Now, if you have ideas or you like these ideas and you want to talk them through, then you go to tyt.com/ideas. That's where the discussion board is, okay? But guys, like mainly as you see things happening, Zane said that he could, Carr just told me, Zane, who is one of our moderators, said he could do the site. So fingers crossed. I mean, I would love it. And by the way, this is not revolutionary in the sense that, oh my God, nobody's ever done this before. Maybe they've never done anything like this entire project. But in terms of me asking for a website and then somebody from Operation Hope creating it, the original working group, there's another guy named Michael there. He does that all the time. So he's done it a bunch of times. So let's see what we come up with. And let's see if who can fact check it too, by the way, we're gonna need that. Who can do the research for it, the building, the AI, et cetera. If this stuff starts to work and people are using it, it's gonna be a beautiful day in America. And guys, so how nonpartisan is this? I don't care what you find about Democrats or Republicans, right? So if it turns out, oh my God, we found out that the Democrats are following their donors 95%, Republicans are only following them 80%. Okay, well then that's what we found out, okay? So, but my guess is they're both following their donors about 98%. But that's the beauty of this. I'm not gonna prejudge it. The facts matter 10 billion times more than what I thought was going to happen, okay? Not .us. Oh, I see. I saw Carr's our community director, and she's communicating with me over text, and she wrote, "Yo, Gen Xer, it's .us, not .us." And at first, I'm like, "Who's Gen Xer?" Like Gen Xer sounds like some sort of pharmaceutical drug that we would try to lower the price of. Okay, I'm like, oh, Gen Xer, that's me. Okay, Marie Newman's on. All right, here comes Representative Marie Newman to tell us how to do this. All right, former representative from Illinois, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it.
Well, so good to be here.
Yeah, I like that we've got a former US congressperson as part of the revolution. Okay, so Marie, we want to influence the folks in Congress from the outside. This has been done before. Jon Stewart did it with the first responders bill. He raised enough pressure, et cetera. But when we go to contact members of Congress, for example, let's do the drug bill, right? So Ro Khanna took Donald Trump's executive order on lowering drug prices to the same price that developed nations pay, word for word, and turn it into a bill. And so it should have everyone co-sponsor it. It's a Trump executive order and it's Democratic policy, but it only has 5 co-sponsors. So we're all reaching out, and already hundreds of our viewers have reached out to different congressional people. But how should we reach out? What should we do?
Yeah, it's a little bit like human interaction of all sorts, right? Is that in person always works best, right? So go to their office if you can, set up an appointment if you can, and tell them what's on your mind. And folks, you do not have to be steeped in knowledge of either the pharmaceutical industry, healthcare industry, or on policy. You can tell it like it is. I would like my drugs to be cheaper. It's as simple as that. So in person is always the most powerful, however you can do that. If you can, and then in terms of the hierarchy, actually just showing up sometimes and letting the chief of staff know, the district director know, hey, I'm really worried about this. I really would like our representative to sponsor this bill. Will you please get this note to him? They do have to, by House rules, they do have to take your name down and then actually enter that information into a database and keep track of it. Each member of the House keeps track of how many folks have spoken up on various issues. So all types of in-person contact, showing up at their office, set up an appointment, however you might do it is really good. And then sometimes, like hanging out in their office, like if they won't see you, just say, no, I'll wait. And if you hang out, that's very powerful. But then obviously in the overall hierarchy of things, a call is always better than an email. Email is better than social media, actually. Where you get great traction with social media is to get others to do the calling and to showing up. So those are some of the things that actually work. Petitions are okay. I'm not a big fan just because they didn't particularly impact me when I was in the House. So I wouldn't spend as much time on that, but do contact them. It's easy and it does make a difference.
Okay, that's actually really encouraging, and I'm a little bit surprised by it. So first I want to review and then I want to ask you about the in-person part. So you're saying in-person, then calling, then email, then social media in order of effectiveness.
Right.
Okay, so now the in-person part, does it matter if it's their office in DC or their office in their district?
It doesn't really matter, honestly. Now I will say, if you have a Republican member of Congress, it's a problem, right? Because they're not even going to they're so afraid of seeing constituents at this point. They're rarely in their district offices. District office is easier and better, and they have to spend as much time there when they're in district. So going to the district office is equal to going to DC. Don't spend the money or the time or the energy to go to DC. Go to their district office.
Okay, and then if you get their chief of staff, is that almost as good as getting the congressperson? And will the congressperson actually see you? Because that's the part I'm surprised by.
Well, let me tell you from personal experience. So when I was part of Moms Demand Action, one of the things we would do is show up at members' offices and sit there for 5-6 hours. And sometimes you got lucky, you really did. And I used to do this with school boards and with all kinds of elected officials, show up and say, well, I'm not going anywhere. And you know what, sometimes you get lucky. It's probably only 30% of the time. But to answer your question about chief of staff, is that they usually do, remember, they're public servants as well, and they're there to help you. And they're also genuinely, I would say, regardless of political stripe, they do want to help people. They really do. That's why they're doing that job. So do give them all the information. And again, you don't have to be completely articulate in any one topic. Just tell them, hey, this thing is bothering me and I'd like my rep to sponsor this bill.
So you're giving me ideas, which is of course always dangerous. So could people just keep swinging by and being like, hey guys, we want to remind you of HR 3493, let's lower drug prices, see you tomorrow.
100%, you can be a frequent flyer. I always used to tell people that were trying to lobby me, I love that you're a pleasant nuisance, because I've been a pleasant nuisance my whole life.
So of course, don't get any, don't be mad, don't be.
No, be respectful, of course. Yeah. Be respectful, calm, kind, all of those things, but also be firm. Let them know, well, I'm just gonna sit here then with a smile.
Yeah, and so now you gave me another idea, which is maybe people should go and have lunch at their district office of their congresspeople. Like that, you could make it a thing. Hey, let's go to see our congressperson for lunch. We'll hang out. He's probably not there, but if he is, or great. If he's not, that's okay. We'll eat our lunch together, and we'll just say, hey, we came to say lower drug prices again, because it's really important to us. And
right.
So, and if it's a Republican, you say, can someone get us an explanation of why he's opposed to Trump's executive order?
Right.
Because that's going to be a tough explanation, right? And then if they're a Democrat, can you get us an explanation as to why a Democrat wouldn't want lower drug prices?
Yeah.
Right? And so I would love to see their explanation.
You and I know that answer, Cenk.
Okay, go ahead. What's the answer?
Well, you know what the answer is.
I know, but I want you to say.
The Democrats that are refusing to sign off on cheaper drugs are the folks that are getting PAC money from healthcare and pharmaceutical companies. I can guarantee, and it's easy to find, go to fec.gov, if they've received money from either of those entities or both, which is often the case, they're likely not gonna love that particular bill.
You know, in an ideal scenario, we get a lot more Republicans first, 20, 30, 40, 50, whatever the number is. And I'll tell you why. Because if the Republicans are fighting like hell to lower drug prices, that's gonna embarrass the Democrats, right? Because I agree with Marie. I think they're faking it. I don't think that they actually want lower drug prices, but you gotta call their bluff. Right? Yeah. You said lower drug prices 1 billion times if you're a Democrat, right? This would definitively lower it. And by the way, the reason why Ro Khanna turned it into a bill is because if it's an executive order, it could just get knocked down by the courts. But if it's a bill, it can't get knocked down. So that's why it only has 5 co-sponsors, because they're.
Congressman kind of called his bluff too. It's like, so Trump knows that he can't do anything, but it sounds tough and like he's trying to get something done, and then he can say, "Oh, well, the courts wouldn't allow me to do it because they don't believe in me, and it's just a problem. But I want you to have cheaper drugs." When in reality, he knew before he ever put pen to paper that there was nothing he can do because it's not binding and it's not a law.
So, okay, now back to the priority order here. I hear you. If like 3 or 4 people go to inside the office, polite, etc., insistent, great, versus 3 or 4 people in social media, the people in person definitely better. But what if it's 3 to 4 people in person, but wait a minute, you got 1,000 tweets about this, or
it does affect them. I don't want to underplay it so much, but in the overall, what they really keep track of, like a staffer is not going to track the number of tweets, but they will track the number of calls and emails that they receive.
So when you were in Congress, which was not that long ago, but it's just everything's speeding. Yeah, just 2 years ago, but everything's speeding up so much. So were people like? It seems like the Congress people now are maniacally on social media, right? Right or wrong, good or bad, right? So was it the same way before? And do they mainly check X? Do they mainly check, like, do they themselves check anything, or is it just the staffers?
Staffs are looking for, so on social media, it's not such a science, right? They're saying, well, gosh, it feels like a lot more are on this side of this issue versus this side of the issue, right? That they'll report that back to their principal, the member of Congress. Members of Congress there's some that are on, I don't even know how they get a job done because they're on so much, it's wild. And it kind of depends on the topic. So when it comes to calling them out on a specific bill, where you can say, House Bill 9447 is something we want you to vote for, and it's simple, then X probably is a way to do that, whether it's Republican or Democrat. If it is a longer issue and you need a little more time to talk about it, you might want to choose a different platform. Increasingly, I'm seeing a few things happen, is that more and more people are getting off X. So that's, it's not as popular to have those discussions, but there's still lots of fighting that goes on there. Threads is probably like the one that's growing the fastest in terms of overall aggregate, and then Blue Sky and Substack, right? But I will tell you, Blue Sky and Substack, I think, are going to blow right by Threads when they get a little bit more traction. So Facebook is really for like organizing. When you are an indivisible group or a 50-51 group or a move on group, and you're trying to get an event together or have a member of Congress show up and talk and answer questions, town halls, that kind of thing. I think that's more powerful. But it's not that social media is not good. It's just not alone. It's not as powerful. It has to live with the in-person, the calls and the emails. Together, it's much more powerful.
Yeah, so I love this tutorial you're giving us. So one more question for now. So, okay, we do all this stuff, but okay, as we talked about earlier, we know what the real issue is, which is that they're taking an enormous amount of money from the drug companies and they're not gonna wanna give that up, right? So that means just 1 or 2 ain't gonna get the job done, right? And in fact, a couple of dozen people might not get the job done, even if they go in person and they do everything right. Although you might be surprised. But okay, what I wanted to ask you is, what do you think is a tipping point? Like, when does it get to a point where the member of Congress goes, whoa, okay, we got to pay attention to this? Yeah.
Right. I think that when there is a bill so when bills get traction and they're popular with members of Congress, right away, because 75 sponsors will jump on right away. So if it's something that's benign and not controversial, usually they jump right on that thing, right? But if there's any amount of controversy around it, there's a bunch of different tools at your disposal. I always like to go visit with members and kind of pitch my idea to them before I ever put the bill together, then send it to what is called Ledge Council. And those are the folks, the lawyers inside the US House of Representatives that actually draft it like draft the law. So it's, the legislative bill is the law language, right? And so when it does get jumped on, it's usually a more benign bill. When it takes a lot of convincing, in-person meetings, pressure from outside, you have a bunch of tools. You can get your activist relationships engaged and start to influence various members of Congress. You can have friends of yours in Congress that are other members that are friendly with members to pressure them to do it. You can have leadership pressure them. You can have other outside groups pressure them. So the tipping point usually comes when all of those groups and entities are really pushing hard. And as an example right now, I would say that while the Democrats probably really can't get anything through right now, I do see pressure on Democrats to stop taking AIPAC and Democratic Majority for Israel and 314 Science money, because it's basically all AIPAC money. I think more and more are signing on to the pledge to not take any of that bully PAC money. So that's an example where all those groups really pressured, and I've seen a tipping point just in the last 4 or 5 months.
Yeah, no, to your point, and by the way, Representative Newman was a leader in that category. She voted against one of the funding bills for Israel, and AIPAC and the Israeli lobby attacked her, and part of the reason she lost, but she knew that those were the risks, and she was courageous enough and patriotic enough to do that. And the fruits of your labor have begun to be evident now, because Seth Moulton today said that he will no longer take AIPAC money and that he is going to return the AIPAC money he took earlier. And that is shocking, because Seth Moulton is one of the more conservative establishment Democrats in the country.
Sure, lovely guy, by the way, but he has always been conservative and really did what he was told by AIPAC, right? So yeah. See, that's compelling to me. I've seen a lot of folks in the New Dem caucus, which is kind of the middle of the road caucus. There's the Progressive Caucus, New Dems, and then the Bulldogs, right? I have seen more and more of the New Dems saying, I'm not taking that money anymore, and I'm not supporting giving Israel more bombs. Like many have signed on to Congresswoman Delia Ramirez Stop the Bombs bill. That has been heartening. So, and we'll see how this quote unquote ceasefire goes, right? Let's see.
Yeah, look, ma'am, look, ma'am.
I've been called worse.
We're making progress in ways that are actually a little bit shocking. I wouldn't have guessed this in a long time. On the other hand, the genocide has been so horrific that it's jarred even a lot of the callous politicians in the right direction. All right, we're kind of out of time, but I gotta ask you just last thing here, because you mentioned it. First of all, thank you for pointing out the organizations. I'd kind of forgotten about that. So if we can, that's another good way to go. We can get right, if we get Democratic or left-leaning organizations or right-wing leaning or Republican organizations to push, that'll also help. So that's another avenue we have to create pressure. So the last substantive question I wanted to ask was about the media, because I forgot to ask that. How much of an effect does that have if all of a sudden either CNN is talking about it or Joe Rogan is talking about it, et cetera?
Oh, I think the brosphere, the podcasters have a lot of impact on everyday folks, but just remember, it's the kind of the circuitous route to the rep. So every time one of those big podcasters, the Call Your Daddy lady and the I've Had It ladies and Joe Rogan and Theo Von and all of these characters, they're impacting and motivating their listeners, right? And then those listeners motivate the rep. So it's just another route to getting constituents to activate.
Okay, all right, so media, organizations, more routes. And lastly, Marie, look, everything here is optional, and you were so wonderful to join us to begin with, so I hate to give you a homework assignment. Okay, but if you got one of your former colleagues, don't name anyone because we don't want to put them on the spot, right? To say yes to HR 3493 and co-sponsor it, explain to them that there would be fireworks here. Like we would endanger the fire code, and they would be heroes and celebrated, right? And it's easy. It's lowering drug prices. So if you help us get one on the board, you'll be an even bigger American hero because you really are one already. I'm not joking.
And it's funny. I have had conversations about that, and they never bring up the corporate PAC money or the money associated with the associations that provide PAC money, but it is that. I can just tell you, folks out there, it's the PAC money.
Yeah, there you go. She was in Congress. She knows it. It's definitive. It's empirical. It's true. Marie Newman, you're amazing. Thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Have a great night, guys.
All right, you too. All right, so last things, guys. Number one, I'm gonna read more of these tomorrow because we're close out of time, but we got a bunch of folks that came up with good ideas. One of them reached out to a state rep on the populist plank and got a long letter back. Reaching out works, it works. And by the way, Wolfpack did this for a long, long time, very successfully, especially at the state rep level. So you know what, guys? I'm gonna do a bonus episode for the members. I'll tell you a story of reaching out to politicians being a spectacular success. And it was my dad who did it. So you'll see and you'll go, wow, really? That was when democracy worked a little bit better. But I'll save that for the members because they're awesome. And lastly here on The Battle Is Joined. We had Marie Newman as a former Congresswoman from Illinois join us today. On Monday, Keith Knight is going to join us. Well, who's Keith Knight? He's the managing editor at the Libertarian Institute. Here comes the libertarians. The battle is joined. All right, I love this, and we're making some progress here. And then I'm looking forward to that on Monday. I'm looking forward to telling you guys more about the progress we made internally and externally, and reaching reps tomorrow, same time, of course, at 8 o'clock Eastern. Right after the show, 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern, of course, is the Young Turks. Okay, go straight to the bonus episode, right? So for those of you who are members, stay right here. We're going straight to the bonus episode, even without a break. And here we are. Okay, so you got to be quick on this one. You got to be on the member stream or switch over quickly. Since this is our first day